Recording in progress.
हादी और रोमाना दोनों हैं हादी को ले हादी हादी को ले Yeah, welcome Hadi. Can you hear me?
Ji, Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum.
Ji, walaikum salam. Hi, how are you? You all right?
I'm doing great, thanks.
All right, fantastic. So we're just about to start. We just had an event right now with Google. So we just concluded that and now we're going to start the session in just, a couple of minutes.
No problem. Just let me know.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Welcome, please. Acha ji, let's start. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another session for FI. ये हमारा first session है after the mentor idea review and mentor idea review तक we have come a long way. लेकिन आज का topic बहुत important है. It's on funding. Or most of you are here. They're looking for funding, I believe. And some of you might think they're looking for funding, but they are not. Trust me. लेकिन but we have with us, Mr. Muhammad Hadi. He's audio and giant from Dubai. So he's the founder and co-founder and CEO of Easy Bike. So we had Ali Muin earlier. So he's his welcome, Hadi. If you could introduce yourself and say a bit about yourself to our founders, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. First of all, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here with you today. My name is Muhammad Hadi. I am the co-founder and of Easy Bike, and we've been working on that project for around 5 years. Easy Bike is one of the leading electric vehicle and electric mobility startups in Pakistan. We are a vertically integrated company that manufactures and deploys fleets of electric two-wheelers. So we have a manufacturing facility in Islamabad where we assemble and modify electric scooters, where we retrofit petrol motorcycles, and then we deploy them in fleets. A lot of people know us in Islamabad and Pindi because of the scooter sharing service that we launched in 2020. This was the first scooter sharing service in the history of the country and was wildly popular. So I think it was a good exercise for us for brand equity and also I think added a lot of value to people in their daily commutes. More recently, we've been selling our electric scooters and electric motorcycles B2C and also to B2B. We specifically cater to the fleets of large logistics companies like Food Panda and TCS. So that's a little bit about the company. I myself became a startup founder 5 years ago with Easy Bike. And prior to that, I spent a long time in banking. So today, hopefully, what I'd like to bring to you in terms of perspective will reflect not just my experience as a founder, but also my experience raising capital for a wide variety of deals and asset classes as a banker over a long period of time. I worked primarily in New York City for a large Swiss bank in their investment banking division. And I was what is known as a coverage officer, which is somebody who sort of originates and manages relationships with large clients. Those can be different types of clients. They can be private equity firms. They can be large corporations, family offices. And typically it was a combination of those that we were working with. And what I would do is originate deals which the bank could finance or the bank could raise capital for, or raise capital from those clients, depending on the nature of the deal. And so we were essentially in the business of what I like to call capital formation, meaning we would find business opportunities and figure out ways of funding them. That could have been with debt, and that could be with equity, depending on the stage of the company and the nature of the company. So I had a long experience doing that in New York, and also then transitioned to the Middle East for a number of years and worked in the private banking space, where I covered large family offices in the GCC. And what that meant was managing investment portfolios for those clients, finding them interesting investment opportunities, deploying their capital, originating new opportunities with these clients. And underlying all of this is an element of sales. So what I mean by that is it ties into our topic today, because when you're raising funding, there's a sales aspect to it. And when you're a coverage banker, it's the same. You need to develop new relationships with people. You need to manage networks of referral agents. You need to build a business development strategy, and you need to be able to manage key client relationships. And so that's what I've done for a large part of my career. And I'd like to think that I bring perspective with regards to capital formation and funding as a banker for large mature businesses, and also as a founder in a Pakistani startup trying to convince people, mostly overseas, to invest in our early stage idea. And it's a different experience in both cases, and it's a different perspective. So today, what I'd like to share with you is some of my experiences and what I've learned from that career background.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for your short intro, and we're gonna engage you, and we're gonna talk on a topic. We have our second mentor and speaker with us, so he doesn't need any introduction, I believe so. So Mr. Murtaza Zaidi is with us. Apart from being a seasoned entrepreneur, he is also, is the founder of Cyber Vision International, which is our core partner of NIC Islamabad. He has also managed previous NICs at NIC Islamabad and NIC Peshawar. And over to Murtaza for some intro. Over to you, please. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamran. Hello, Hadi. Good to see you here,
Nice to see you.
Yeah, so we are very thrilled to have you here, Hadi, today. You appear to be very large. He does look like Superman, right? Right, guys? Right. So yeah. So looking forward to this session, Kamran. I think सबसे पहले Rumana करें, and then Hadi.
Huh? Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I believe Rumana has joined us. Yeah, welcome.
Hi, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hello.
Oh, welcome, Rumana. I believe we are short on time, so we're gonna straight jump to you. A bit of intro of yourself. We are looking forward to Shark Tank Pakistan and looking forward to see you. So congratulations on that. And over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Really excited to be part of this and to be supporting, obviously, the ecosystem. Maybe to give you a bit of background. So whilst our family originates from the region, I've spent most of my career in London and across international markets in the Middle East for the last 15 years. I actually started my career training as a lawyer, but as a child from the age of 16, some of you know and some of you don't, I started my first businesses from my very own garage at home. E-commerce businesses, marketplace businesses, service-based businesses, so a real range. As I grew through my career as a corporate lawyer, I realized very quickly that, entrepreneurship was really the heart of who I was. And I started investing very early on. I started actually my investment journey outside of my own startups in property and real estate, where I was able to generate significant capital very quickly. I've been through 3 big upturns and cycles myself in my life. So I've seen those kind of peaks and troughs, and now, inshallah, hoping that all of that experience across global markets, buying companies, companies across Asia, Turkey, Middle East, working with teams across these markets, everywhere from Pakistan to India, shared services teams, outsourced teams. I'm hoping that all of that experience across all these sectors will really help me to deliver the most legacy. And so right now, actually, my focus is twofold. One is activating more investors to come into new opportunities, particularly ecosystems like Pakistan, where institutional investors have been slightly more reluctant to enter. And I'm hoping through activating my own personal capital and the capital of, the ordinary layperson who traditionally hasn't been able to come into an investment, either because they don't know how to source great investment opportunities and or they don't know really what to do in terms of due diligence. So we've created a vehicle called Women Collective. And although it's not exclusively for women, the idea is firstly to start empowering women, because as many of you will know, only 11% of global decision makers in private equity and venture capital houses are females. And that trickles down to impact the number of women that are funded, which means only 1% of women are receiving venture capital funding. And that's a global statistic. This, also reflects in board positions. Globally, board positions, women are at 20%. In the Middle East, that's like 12 and 11%. So the statistics are pretty dire. So what we try to do is supercharge wealth generation with women by getting them in from, small tickets like $5,000. We have a Pakistani startup in the lineup for our next investment. So that's going to be very exciting when that goes live. And aside from that, I am rebuilding what I started many years ago, which is a consumer lifestyle and wellness fund. I am particularly keen on this sector. It's a sector that I have built many companies in, and the team that I'm bringing on, I think you're all going to be very excited. Some are names in the Pakistani ecosystem, and some are international names who've exited consumer companies, great ones, big ones. The board is also equally as exciting and interesting, and they're great companies that we're investing in. The first investments that we're putting together. Again, brands that you will recognize and love. And I believe that, again, all that an entrepreneur needs is the right network, access to funding, and people who care enough and are passionate enough to support them on their journey. As long as you're a committed, passionate founder who has a strong vision, even if that changes in terms of the product itself or the services itself, what you need is to find the right people to back you on that journey. And inshallah, that's what I hope to continue to be for the ecosystem. And I'm really excited again to be part of this with you. And I'm sorry that I can't be with you for the entire session, but I will drop in and out as much as I can.
All right, thank you very much for that short intro. And there are a lot of exciting things that are going on. I believe you have a call at 3, so we're going to start straight away from you, right? So today's topic, as you already know, is funding. So why funding? So we just want to understand your thoughts on what kind of funding is there, how our startups should and when they should be thinking about having go for funding. Is it very absolutely necessary that they should be thinking of funding in the first place instead of building their business? And what are your thoughts on this topic? So over to you.
Yes, of course. Look, absolutely. The most important thing for any business, and I think this is super important for every business to remember, is you need to be able to generate revenue of your own, right? You need to be able to make money and build a profitable business. The conversation of funding, in my view, is always overrated. There's too much conversation on funding and too little on how to build a profitable, successful company. A profitable, successful company is one that creates products that customers want to buy, that services solutions that customers really need. Does your company actually solve for something that people really need actually today? And I think this, going back a few steps and starting with this market research and market traction is really fundamental. I see too many entrepreneurs coming to me and saying, hey, I've built this great product, I need funding. And I say to them, well, what market research did you do that people actually need this, or that the price point that you're selling this product or service for is required? And unfortunately, that conversation then dries up very quickly. So number one is, what are you solving for? And again, I take you back to the history of venture capital, right? Venture capital was created as a vehicle to fund for us to have economic development. We want to be able to see a better world. We want to see a world that changes and impacts us all for positive legacy. So is your product or solution doing that? Start at that point. And once you have somewhat a deep market research, I understand for our products or projects that require a lot of R&D, you do require a lot more capital, and that changes, right? So then again, have you done some market research to see that the product that you're thinking of has interest, even if you're not able to generate some revenue and or get to profitability? And that's also fine. Secondly, start conversations really early on. People like myself, and I always say this to people, do not be afraid of reaching out to people by LinkedIn. I love it. To be honest, I think Pakistani entrepreneurs are incredibly talented and are great hustlers and have super confidence, alhamdulillah. It must be something about the way that they're brought up, but they are the most confident. The number of emails and messages and LinkedIn's I have received, on a weekly basis from startups who want to tell me about the business and who want me to support them. I love that. And I think please do that, not just with myself, but with others in the ecosystem who have experience. You have great entrepreneurs, even like Murtaza himself, as you know, and many others who have achieved great success in their various industries. Be confident enough to ask for guidance, ask for direction, ask for a sense check. Am I doing the right thing? I'll tell you a story that one of my early businesses that I created was, as many of you know, one of the largest modest fashion platforms that was created. We started building that. It was a 9-year journey, me as a CEO. And I think it was on year 5, one of our new investors that came in from Indonesia had said to me, I really love Lindsay Lohan. I would love to see her attend. And everyone in my team was like, okay, very unrealistic ask. How are we going to get Lindsay Lohan to attend an event in London in the Saatchi Gallery covering modest fashion? This was way before she was married to a Muslim, by the way. So this is talking about 2014 and timeline. Of course, I jumped onto LinkedIn, my network, reached out. I think it was purely, honestly, LinkedIn, harassing a number of people, a manager that I found for her. And of course, Lindsay Lohan attended our event. And if you Google Lindsay Lohan attends modest fashion event, you'll see her pictures wearing a hijab. Nobody could believe that I could get Lindsay Lohan to wear a hijab in London at the Saatchi Gallery. So my point is that nothing is out of your reach. Nothing is impossible. It's only your mindset that restricts you from the possibilities. So reach out to your wildest, fantasy of who you would want to support you, be an investor. What are you going to lose? A no? Maybe some advice, maybe a broader network. That's all you have to lose, nothing else at all. So start those conversations, aim high, reach for the stars, as they say. There's really no limit. And then number 3 attached to that is even conventional investors. Start talking to them really early on. Even if you think you're way too early, let them know that you exist. Put yourself on their radar. People want to get to know you, right? Investing in someone is a relationship. It's us building trust and confidence in you and knowing you as an individual over a period of time. So get to know people, have conversations with them, talk to them, and start, building that trust-based relationship effectively. Following on from that, who are the types of investors that I think you should reach out to? So again, aside from your largest, idols or people that you think would be incredible mentors or people who've been hugely successful in the industry that you're building, your friends and your family, and you all know this anyway. I know that in our culture, it's somewhat not considered, really nice to ask for money. But in the American culture, in the global culture, startups have traditionally taken that, it's called a family and friends raise. It is the people who know you, who trust you, that will be your biggest backers. And why not let them come in early on something that could generate them big returns? So speak to that network. And again, another story that I'll tell you, where I remember once reading the story about the Starbucks founder. His first pitch that raised him the biggest capital was just in a coffee shop, sitting down next to someone where he just ended up, talking about what he wanted to build. And the guy next to him became the founder. So that's anyone, any opportunity, wherever you are. So make sure that you're always representing your brand, live, eat, breathe your brand, your product, your service, and prepare your 60-second pitch. The best advice I can give you is, please, entrepreneurs who have these very long-winded explanations of your product or service, please cut it down, practice it. If you're not a good pitcher, choose someone in your team who is a good pitcher, and you yourself do your best to practice, because everyone should be able to explain their product or service in 60 seconds and no more. Have that ready. We call it the elevator pitch, but it really is. The number of times I've been in an elevator and I have met a potential investor, I cannot tell you. Alhamdulillah, it has been a phenomenal return on those elevator conversations for me. So be prepared with your elevator pitch. So again, recapping, anybody could be an investor. those closest to you, family and friends, are a good support network. If you don't think that that's available to you, reach out to other angels. Look out, angels on LinkedIn. There's angel groups like ours, Women Collective, where we're super open to look at great companies. Please reach out to us. We're really happy to look at any companies, and we'll make referrals to others that we think can join. Again, if you have individuals who are not confident with investing directly, they can join other angel syndicates and vehicles like ours, and there are many others, again, that exist like that. And then start talking to VCs early on. Find great mentors. Those mentors might become your backers, people who love your industry, who are in your space, who've exited something in your space, who maybe have a family conglomerate in this space. And again, start conversations really early. Reach for the sky. Nothing is impossible. I think that for me summarizes that. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take any questions. I think I have a couple of minutes still, 5 minutes still.
All right. Thank you very much for a very short but crisp presentation on funding and your two thoughts. As far as elevator pitch is concerned, so we also have a thing called hot seat, and that's part of our session. So what we're going to do is, I believe you have a call at 3, and you can join us at 4. So then we can maybe you can listen to some of these pitches and then you can rate them, and then you can also have some Q&A on that. All right, fantastic. So before you go, we can take maybe some questions, and then we can go for the second speaker. So if you have any questions okay, so we have one question.
Assalamu alaikum ji. Madam, thank you for the lovely, detailed insights that you just shared. So I want to know specifically about the 60-second pitch that you mentioned. I mean, what are we supposed to tell in 60 seconds? Should we talk about finance? Should we talk about the value that we're creating, or the solution? I mean, what should we talk about in 60 seconds? And what would spark, say, someone like your interest who has that kind of experience and has the angel funding to give out,
Absolutely. Look, storytelling is always super emotive. So if you have a deep story behind it, maybe it's a business that supports, someone with who requires assisted care, and you had a sister who required assisted care. Whatever that story is that drove you to build that business, for sure, that storytelling is important. Of course, key facts and numbers are really important. So I'd say have 2 or 3 key facts, or what is the market size? Who are your competitors? If there aren't any competitors, why are there not any competitors? What is that problem that you're solving for? How do you know that it is a problem? Just very quickly, what is the market research? So you could summarize, for example, I've created a product that solves for, and I'm going to give you something that, really isn't a great solution, but, it can fly. So, I've created, there's a new product called Hi Smile, which is a great new toothpaste brand. So I've created a new product, which is a new toothpaste brand. There's not been any other products in this space. It's a single only market competitor. It creates really awesome flavors like red velvet. Kids are loving it. We've done lots of market studies, and kids and their parents are willing to buy it as a luxury product. We've already seen sales of X in our demo sales. We expect revenue to be Y. The current market for toothpaste globally is X. This is the price point of our product. This is the profitability. This is the margins that we're creating. This is where we're creating our product. We're creating it in Pakistan in a factory, so our margins are 90% on the product. It is really a play on marketing and branding, and we see it as really revolutionary. We've already got letters of intent from Boots and Superdrug and global supermarkets who are willing to demo this product. We have a celebrity endorsement from, Ashanti, who wants to partner with us on this product. Simple, 60 seconds. I've sold my product to you.
Fantastic, guys. We should give. All right. So I think one last question, if you could take, Rabit is virtually joining us. Rabit, what's your question?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I'm also a lawyer, so it's good to know that I'm not only switching the field, but you have also come up to the startups industry as well. So yeah, so I'm basically providing. We have a legal chatbot which is here to assist Pakistani lawyers. It's a legal database and provide AI solutions in their drafting and research. So my question is, what are the key qualities you look into a founder apart from their startup? So that's my question. Qualities of a startup as a sole individual.
Wonderful. So good question. Interesting space, actually. I've had 2 Pakistani startups reach out to me with the same product. So it'll be very interesting to see what yours is. In the last week alone, I like the space. as an entrepreneur, the most important thing that we look for are people who have the perseverance, the drive, and the passion to drive this forward. Remember that entrepreneurship is the toughest journey that you will ever endure. It is lonely, it is difficult, it is not for everyone. And again, I remind people to always question to themselves if they're willing to make the sacrifices that it takes. Some people get lucky, but very few people get lucky. 99% of people go through a very tough, long journey to get where they need to. Of course, as I said, you can facilitate and make that easier by the right connections. But I want to see that determination, that perseverance, that passion. And I want to see that hustling quality, which is where the fact that you might have made revenue in areas that are collateral to your core product, but that demonstrate to me that you know how to bootstrap your business, that you know how to keep surviving, even if you're not going after the funding game. And getting funding and raising lots of money is great and exciting, but ultimately, you know, you will crash at some point if you do not build a sustainable, profitable business. So I want to see that you have an understanding of how to do that. And usually for most of us investors, of course, we like to see people who founded businesses before or who've been deep in the sector. I like people who have, you know, maybe you were a marketing lead at, you were a lawyer at a law firm for 10 years, and you've seen the problems that the normal layman faces when trying to access legal solutions. And that's why you realize that this is a pain, and therefore there must be a solution for it. So I want to see why and what the background is. Again, that storytelling, that you think it's really important to create this, even if you are a first-time founder and this is your first time embarking on this journey. So it's about you, your past experience, your past career, your professional qualifications, etc.
All right. I believe it's your time for your call. So looking forward to see you at 4 p.m. Pakistan time. So I think it's in an hour time. You can rejoin us. And thank you very much. And then hope to see you in an hour.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks for accommodating. Salam alaikum. Appreciate it.
Right.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Okay. So we have with us Mr. Muhammad Hadi. He's the founder and CEO of Easy Bike. So he's going to talk about today's topic on funding, because they also got a chance to. Hadi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
All right, fantastic. So over to you on maybe you could share your personal journey on when when Easy Bike venture was started, and then how the bootstrapping went on, and once you were raising, so the whole journey and how it our startup founders can relate to it, and so what were your findings, and over to you.
Absolutely, sure. Yeah, so with Easy Bike, we started the company in around 2018. We were working on a few different models, and really all we knew at the time was that we were interested in the mobility space. And we thought that there was a lot of disruption potential within mobility in emerging markets like Pakistan. And we were, to a great degree, motivated by the disruption that was taking place, not just with ride hailing, but also with the other forms of mobility disruption that we were seeing in similar markets like India. We thought there was great potential to come up with other ways of solving the mobility challenge in a country which is densely populated and there's very low vehicle ownership ratio and very poor public transportation. And so, we tried a few different things, and it was around 2020 that we decided to move towards the electric scooter space. Until that point, we self-funded. So we were basically bootstrapping the company, and it was a very small operation at the time. It was in the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, that we decided to raise a round. Romana spoke very eloquently about the family and friends round, and that's what we chose as our first round of capital raise. So we did a small round with some trusted people who were willing to back us with an early stage idea and really nothing to show for it. And then after that, we were able to raise subsequent rounds as the company gained momentum and increasingly moved to more institutional forms of capital. So we did an angel round after our friends and family, which was an odd choice because people will usually go to the VCs at that point, but we wanted to keep the round small and dictate terms. And then ultimately, we then raised capital from VCs, who have turned out to be terrific partners. So that was our journey. And, you know, we've been through a bull market, a market where there's plenty of funding available and very few investment opportunities. And now we're seeing an opportunity with a market where there's very little funding to go around. And so those cycles are also part of the journey, and understanding what the market cycles are and how one adjusts their strategy is a key component of funding your business. For us, you know, there's a few topics or themes that I would say I've certainly learned raising capital for my own startup and also raising capital for other deals. And I think they're really important to bear in mind. You know, oftentimes when we're pitching our business idea, you know, there's almost an implicit concept, I feel, with a lot of people that, you know, they're asking for money. And I really dislike that approach or that you know, that worldview. If you're a startup founder and you have a company that you want capital for, then you're not really asking for money. What you're doing is you're selling shares. And in other words, you're selling your future earnings to somebody else. And if you take that viewpoint, rather than I need money to keep my, you know, to pay for the electricity bill, I think you might approach investors in a very different way. What we're selling as startup founders when we raise capital is a very precious resource, because if you really truly believe in your idea and you believe it's going to be a huge success and you're going to have a huge exit or very substantial dividends, then to give up any portion of those is, you know, is quite a big sacrifice. And so what you're giving up is you're giving up some earnings in the future in order to provide yourself with the chance to get there. You're feeding your company the capital it needs to get there. And you're very cognizant that if you could just, for example, fund it with debt, then you would do, and you wouldn't have to give up your future earnings. But debt is not an option, given the fact that you're an early stage company and wouldn't be able to service the debt. That's why you're selling equity, selling shares or ownership stakes. And so I feel like, you know, our approach as founders should be to sell as little as possible. And so what that begs the question is, how much money do you need? And I think that's a really, really interesting point. And, you know, one that we touched on a little earlier in the session. But, you know, the default position of any business, whether it's a startup and regardless of your vertical, the default position should be that you don't raise capital from external investors. You should try to keep 100% of the equity. And if the company can self-fund, then great. Now, the reality is that most companies are not going to generate enough excess cash flow, especially in an early stage, that they would be able to grow. And so if your company is onto something big and it's got a very clear path to getting to a point where it's generating substantial cash flow, and you know that there's a certain amount of capital required in order to get you there, then it makes sense to raise capital. I think a lot of the time we approach this as startups and we think that's what we do, we raise funding. But actually raising funding, if you're not in the right space, if you're not ready, is the worst thing you could possibly do, because you're going to dilute yourself, you're going to have oversight from external parties who will want to know what's happening with their money. And you're going to have, for example, board governance issues, etc. And you're going to be beholden to somebody else. So don't raise the capital unless you need it, right? As I think we talked about. But what I feel a lot of the times what I see with some startup counterparts in Pakistan is a lot of people have fantastic ideas. They have really strong technical skills and they're very impressive and passionate in what they do. But sometimes what they don't have is finance skills. And I do think that before we even talk about raising capital, the really critical thing is to just understand the finances of our businesses. And that may seem very obvious, but I feel that a lot of times people get intimidated by financial modeling. You say the word and people start to get nervous. But financial modeling is really quite a simple exercise where you can essentially break down the assumptions around your business in order to project the revenues and costs. And I think that it's really important for founders to carry out their own financial modeling. Sure, there's people who can come in and be a consultant to you, but every founder should really know the intricacies of the finances of their business themselves. And in order to discover those and have the analytics at the tips of their fingertips and be able to give that 60-second pitch and hit those numbers the right way, they really have to carry out the financial modeling themselves and understand the model. And it's not as complicated and technical as it sounds if you're not from a finance background. It doesn't have to be something which is particularly sophisticated. It just has to be accurate. And when I say that, really, the main thing is to validate the assumptions that go into your model. How many can you sell, right, what you're doing? What is the cost? Realistically, what is the profitability? What do you think will happen as you hit scale? These are the types of assumptions that will help you to develop a robust financial model. And once you have that, you'll know whether A, your business is viable, and B, whether you need to adjust anything, and then C, what your financing needs are. So if you run a financial model and you think, wow, this is so profitable, I'm never going to need to raise capital. Good for you. Then you can just run it. In the more realistic scenario that there's going to be a gap in funding to get to the 3-year state that you're looking to get to, for example, then you're going to be able to define a certain amount that you need to raise. And again, I always think that you should default to the lowest amount that you should raise. We've seen examples in the last funding cycle where people have raised excessive amounts of capital at extremely high valuations, and it creates headlines, it creates buzz. It gives you 15 minutes of fame, but it's also extremely risky, and a lot of companies have suffered because of that or shut down in the downturn because they can't sustain operations at the pace that they've set themselves. So in many ways, go slow and steady and build a sustainable business first. We talked about friends and family as a source of capital. Certainly, people who trust you are the people you want to go to. And if you have the luxury of being able to fund it yourself or from an uncle or something in the beginning, then do that. Because the further along in the life cycle of the company you get, and the closer you are to achieving the goals that you've set yourself, whether they're financial goals, i.e., your profitability or your revenues, or it's technical goals, like we're going to create XYZ product, or we're going to figure out some new intellectual property or some solution. The further along you are, the higher your valuation is. The higher your valuation is, the more capital you can raise without giving up too much equity. And so it should always be your approach to try to delay your capital raise until you think you're ready and until you think you can get the terms that you're looking for. So with that said, I think it's also very important that that financial model becomes the heart of your business. As a founder, once you create it, you don't just leave it. In a startup, 2 weeks later, some of the assumptions you've made are no longer valid. And so what you really want to do is you want to make it a living, breathing model that you're constantly going to adjust your assumptions. And that becomes the template through which you run your business. And the more you get to know it, the more hours you spend on it, the more equipped you're going to be to have those conversations with investors and impress them when the time comes. Now, when you get to the actual capital raise itself, our experience at EasyBike and my experience generally in my career has always been that, when someone is looking to invest in a company, one of the most important factors is FOMO. And that sounds ridiculous because we're talking about sophisticated investors and large sums of money, but it is actually the fear of missing out which drives a lot of investors in the actions they take. And investors also tend to be, just like every other class of humans, they tend to be, very mob mentality. So very much in a mob mentality. So there'll be trends of particular types of companies or particular companies that are in vogue, that are popular. And when those companies and those trends come around, every investor wants to get a piece of that. They really want to get inside, and they struggle to do so. And they know that if they don't get that latest hot company, then they're going to miss out. If they're working as an employee, then they're going to be accountable to their bosses for why did you miss that deal? You're supposed to be covering this company. And I'll talk more about the motivations of those individuals in a minute. But you see so many examples where there's very little due diligence. People are just following trends. And what that should tell you as a startup founder is you need to be the hot company. It's just human psychology like anything else. But what we have to do, rather than chase people and ask them for money, is attract people based on the momentum we create. A large part of that in today's world is publicity on the likes of LinkedIn. So being very active, putting out opinion pieces, building your network on social media, I think is an excellent tool. Building your network offline as well, participating in networking events, even if it doesn't come naturally to you, is a great idea. The larger your network, the more well-known you are, the more respected you are, the more that you have a profile, the higher likelihood you're going to be able to raise capital and raise capital at the terms that you want. And so I always say to people that if you think based upon your modeling exercise that you're going to need to raise capital in 9 months, for example, then start networking now. The capital raise itself will take 6 months to a year, depending on, there are examples of it taking longer, shorter times, but usually it'll take that long, at least 3 to 6 months. But so bear that in mind. But even before you get to the point that you want to raise capital, what you should be doing is building that network, building that publicity, building that momentum, building that FOMO, so that you are a known entity with these investors. Target them from now, start thinking about them, reach out to them cold, or better yet, always take a warm referral if you can get it. And do it in a situation where you don't need to ask for capital day one. Tell them about what you're doing, explain who you are, leave a little bit of mystery, but don't ask for capital. That's the most frustrating thing for an investor where they can't get in. And so what that allows you to do is to build the network of your targets without being in a position where you're joining the line of people who are asking for capital, and you're building that credibility. You become a known entity. We all feel more comfortable with people we know. By the way, it also allows you the opportunity to get to know the investors. You don't want every investor to be part of your capital structure. You have to deal with these people on a long-term basis. It's like a business partner or a client. So you get to due diligence them as well. But your investors will always be more inclined to do business with people they know. Somebody coming out of the woodwork, they have no idea who they are. They're from a city they don't know. They don't have any people in common. And they have a great business idea. Very unlikely they're going to invest in them, because we invest where we feel safe and secure. The other thing that I want to talk about is a little about the motivations of these investors. I touched on it a little bit earlier. I think that sometimes we tend to get, for us, the whole world of investors is kind of a black hole. And it's sort of like, hey, you have money, I want you to invest, please invest. Well, no, actually, that's not how it works. No two investors are the same. And what you want to do is you want to understand who these investors are. What are their motivations? Do research on them. If there are YouTube videos where, for example, if it's a VC firm, find out what their investment strategy is. Find out what their experience has been. They'll talk about it if they're interviewing. And understand what the business model is that they're running. So there are different types of investors, and it'll translate into different types of decisions. And you need to understand what their role in that investment company is. So for example, if it's a VC, what is that VC strategy? Do they invest in early stage only? Are they a later stage investor and you're wasting their time asking for a pre-seed investment? Do they invest in specific verticals, specific types of companies? Do you fit that? What is their investment tracker? Did they back a company in another country which is in the same vertical as you? Great. Do that research. What's the size of their check? Do they lead rounds, or do they need somebody else to lead? The individual who you're targeting, what's their position at the company? Who's their boss? Remember, if you're working at a VC firm, it sounds very grand, but these are humans. They have careers like the rest of us. And so they work for someone, they got a job, they have accountabilities, they're going to get promoted or fired based upon performance. So you need to understand, what is it they're looking for? How can you help solve their problems? It's emotional intelligence that you use every day in your business to develop it, to figure out what your customers want. Apply the same thing to investors and educate yourself on what those companies do. What are VCs exactly? Who are family offices? Why do people say family offices are long-term capital? Are they looking to invest in a company and then exit it within 3 years? Or are they more of a long-term investor that wants to get dividends? Can they help you as a partner? Do they want control? These are the different types of investors available to us. Angel networks, are they useful? What type of size can they invest? Are they credible? Have they done deals in the past? Do they have a reputation for wasting people's time? These are the things that you can do to optimize your capital raise and optimize those conversations. So when you go into those 60-second pitches, you are able to hit the points that that person's looking for. It's the keywords you want to hit very early on. In that cold email, you want to tell them why they should think about you. And knowing who they are is so important in order to understand whether there's a fit. As I mentioned, those fits are mutual. So you have to think about who they are as well. It's ultimately always a question of supply and demand, just like every other market in the world. So if you can create a situation where there is excess demand for your equity and there's a supply shortage, in other words, more people are chasing the company, you will not only increase your chances of raising the round, but you will maximize the valuation or optimize the terms that you get, because people will be fighting over a position. If it's just one investor looking at it, they'll string you along for as long as they want to, because they know you've got no bid away and they can extract whatever terms they want. So bear in mind, the more conversations you have going, the greater your pipeline, the higher chance you have of closing and creating a competitive environment where you extract the right terms for you and your existing shareholders. And the last thing I want to talk about is what investors look for. An investor is looking at what are the future earnings of this company. And so they're going to look at your model, but really it's more of a gut feel with early stage companies. And so, because the model really, depending what assumptions you put in it, can change drastically. So it's really a question of understanding, do I think that this is a real opportunity in a real market with a real team? So the narrative is a very big part of what people are going to be assessing. Very few investors on early stage companies, at least in the first few conversations, are going to even open your Excel model. It's just that you need to know the numbers in that Excel model in order to be able to articulate them and be able to answer questions. Every investor who's worth their salt will try to grill you a little bit. They'll try to throw you off by asking you cutting questions. And if you perform well and show confidence and competency and familiarity with your market and your model, they'll be quiet. They don't know what your business is. They just want to test whether you do. So really what it boils down to is, I'd say 70% of the decision-making process is the team. They want to see that you have the tenacity. They want to see you have emotional and intelligence. They want to see you understand your business, you understand your market, and you have the right motivations. Even if the model isn't exactly right, you may have investors that invest with you anyway. We had that, where they thought, you're going to tweak the model, but we like you guys. You're a good team. Let's invest. And then the other part of it is always going to be the TAM, SAM, and so on, the actual market. How big is the market? How much of it can you access? And how do you know how big it is? It doesn't matter what the idea is. You have to quantify it. Is it going to get to profit? How do you think that you are going to be able to win market share? That story is very important. And then finally, for us, a lot of what we did was try to understand what the comps were, the comparable companies. Who's done this in other markets or in this market? Why is there a story? So, for example, we used to talk a lot about India. Being in the electric vehicle, electric mobility space, and they're 5 or 10 years ahead in their development. We talked about what companies have done there, what their valuations are, how they've funded themselves, how they've approached the market. So figuring out who your comps are and talking about, look, this has been done in XYZ company, a country, we're the first people to do it in Pakistan. That's a very good pitch, and I think that's very compelling and serves very well. Let me pause there, and I can take any questions that anyone in the audience has.
All right. Thank you very much. It was again a very, comprehensive, topic that you covered, and a lot of points that you have mentioned. Like you mentioned, networking with LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is a very powerful tool. People don't know how to utilize it, and I believe, whether you're, looking for a job or whether you're looking for an investor or any other network. So people don't know how to leverage it. We have some questions from the audience. So, all right. So first up.
So when it comes to funding, it's one thing to just want to get money so you can grow your business, but it's another thing if you want someone relevant to have skin in the game and help you out in growing. So if it's someone that's very relevant to you, even if you don't need that money directly currently in your position, but you do know that their presence in that market or their relevancy inside of that market can really help you grow. So at what point do you decide that I should not be looking at the amount of money that I'm getting out of this, but the opportunity that's coming in from them? Because if within our network, we do know of someone who's managing a family office and was actively looking out to give out investment. But the issue with them is they're very irrelevant to what we're doing. And they're a very prime opportunity to get that funding. So we're delaying our possibility of growth by margin because they're not relevant at all with us. But in terms of providing us funding, they're very accessible. So we wouldn't need to be trying all that hard in order to get that funding from them. But we chose not to do that because they're very irrelevant. So where do you decide that point where the relevancy of your investor is not as big of a component for your raise? Sorry if it sounds a bit confusing, but thank you.
No, it's a good question. I mean, I think you touch on an interesting point, which is, broadly speaking, what do investors bring to the table? And there can be different motivations for bringing an investor on board. And the purest one is that they bring capital and that they don't do anything after the day that they inject that capital into your company. And you just want that money. In your case, what you're talking about is a situation where you want someone to be irrelevant. Beyond relevance, I'd like to sort of be more specific and say that somebody who is going to be able to quantifiably grow your business through their network or through their expertise or through their credibility. So if you think somebody has the ability to add value to your business and get you closer to your target in terms of growth, I think you asked me, do you give them a piece of the equity, even if you don't think you need the funding? I would be very, as I said, very protective of your equity. So I think there are, quite candidly, a number of people who kind of generally within the startup space, position themselves as advisors who can help you grow and take equity. I wouldn't give that up that easily unless you can really validate what they bring to the table. The other thing I would say is, if they're experts in your field, oftentimes what people do is put them on an advisory board, and they'll pay them for their work in that advisory board with equity. So, we're talking about perhaps 0.25% equity or something less than that. So small pieces where it's enough to motivate them to help you grow, but it doesn't cost you too much. So that's another way of approaching it without taking their cash. Or you can make it a mix where they'll serve on the board for some sweat equity and they'll put in a small check as well. So you can do sort of these type of things outside of a round in your control. If you need to bring the right people on board. And I would certainly encourage everyone to try to put together an advisory board or mentors and give them skin in the game in order to allow them to grow. As far as your family office is concerned that's willing to write a check, you know best what your specific funding needs are right now and what the bid away is. If you think that you don't need the funding right now and you can wait, or that you would like to get other people into the table who would be able to add value beyond just capital, then you can do so. But if there's not a clear path to getting to funding, and that's going to put you in a bad position in terms of not being able to grow or whatever it may be, hit the bid while it's there. I wouldn't take it for granted. So, one thing people tend to do is they shop a bid. So if you have, for example, a written commitment of sorts, you can tell them, look, I'm going to go and bring other investors in and use that as an anchor to go and raise other capital. I don't know what the size of the check is or how credible the family office is, but if they're willing to give you a term sheet, people market that. And when other investors see that the family office is in, the ones that you want to come in who will add value and who are relevant, as you put it, maybe that'll convince them to look at it a little bit more closely, and then you'll be able to raise a round off the back. I'm not telling you to raise the capital from them or take the check, but I am saying don't take it for granted. Use it however you can to increase your chances of growth. I hope that answers your question.
All right. So before you ask a question, I believe you should first introduce yourself and what you do, and then you can ask a question. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Hadi. I'm
Hi.
Farooq Bhatti, one of the co-founder of Innovative Technologies. We are doing an IoT-based cold chain monitoring service for healthcare and food. So thank you for your useful insights. My question is that whenever I've tried to figure out what exact amount should we raise, it's always been a tough thing for me. Normally we do projections, but what would be our, key expenses, 1 year forward? That always kind of banks on some wild assumptions. And we've not been very good at that. One advice that we received earlier was that it's also dangerous to raise lesser capital. In fact, you could really end up into serious trouble. It would rather be okay if you go at a slightly lower valuation earlier on, but with the right amount of capital and right investor fit, you would do well, and that would still be better in the long run. So what would you suggest on this?
Yeah, so for the second part of the question, it's always a trade-off. If you dilute yourself really early on, then you may end up with a lot of capital, and that helps you because you picked the right space to grow very rapidly and come up with a company which is quite valuable, but you're going to own less of it. So, selfishly, personally for you, that's not a great thing. There are examples of startups in the Pakistani ecosystem that have done that. They're very well-known startups that founders are almost completely diluted. They're in single digits. And that creates a problem for all the investors as well, frankly, because they lack motivation. But I would say that certainly if you raise too little capital and you put yourself in a precarious situation 8 months down the road where you don't have funding to keep the lights on, that's obviously not what you want to do either. So it is definitely a balance. But I would just, again, be cautious. If you're going to raise a big round, you better be very confident that you have a defined and tangible path to revenue, not just that we'll spend the money, let's see what happens. And that's why I think it's always better to start small. You can always do a follow-on raise once you've gained some momentum. So you don't have to do it all at once. So that I think is a better approach for most businesses, where you take a small round and then you show some of the traction and you show yourself, frankly, you prove to yourself that, hey, for example, I'm spending money on digital media. Here's my cost per click. Here's my customer acquisition cost. Here's my customer lifetime value. I know what those dynamics are. I can see that it's scalable. Let me raise another X amount of money and deploy that. And you can show that to investors too. You'll get a slightly higher valuation. You'll give a little less equity. I would always favor that. It's always a case of personality. It's always a case of risk averseness. And as I said, it's a trade-off. So there's no perfect answer. Some people will say, no, I'd rather raise all the money at once and swing for the fences. I think it's your business, so be very careful with it in terms of what you end up doing. I'm forgetting the first part of the question. I apologize. I think you were asking about.
Yeah, so it's about how to determine the right amount to raise.
It's a really tough one,
especially
right?
with respect to the cost projections.
Yeah, it's a very tough one because you're right. It's based upon assumptions that are very difficult to nail down, and depending on if you adjust them by sort of 1%, it'll come up with wildly different numbers a year down the road. So it is a difficult exercise, and you're never going to be right. I want to explain that. You're not going to be exact. You're not going to create a model where a year down the road it actually turned out how you thought it would. You're just trying to give some sort of roadmap and some logic. So really, more than anything else, it's to test your own logic and make sure you're thinking about this right. For example, oftentimes what we do is we'll run the financial model and we're like, oh, I think I can get that many customers. And then you think about it, and you think about the volumes you're talking about it, like operationally, would you be able to fulfill that many orders? Probably not. So it helps you to test some of those things, right? But I think, the biggest challenge tends to be that it's a circular formula, because the amount of money you put into it today to acquire customers, for example, or create more widgets or whatever it is that you're producing, you're going to, the more you put in, the more you're going to have revenue available, and the more your numbers are going to go up. And the less you put in, the less is going to be there. So if you don't put in the funding today, then you're not going to need the additional capital to cover operational costs in the future. So yes, it's a difficult exercise, and there's no real answer to saying this is how you should approach it. You just need to sort of validate your assumptions as best you can and do whatever market research to test which ones are right, which ones are wrong, and come up with a comfortable balance of raising too much or raising too little. The last thing I'll say is you also need to do market research always on where the market is. Right now, we're in a bear market in terms of funding in Pakistan. So there's not that much capital available. 2 years ago, people were funding like crazy into astronomical valuations. So having an idea for where companies in your market or in your product set are typically raising capital and at what valuations at different stages is also really helpful in developing a roadmap, because that'll inform your capital needs as well. Like, you've run your model, you know what in an absolute space in a vacuum you think you need broadly. And as you said, it can be more or less. But then benchmark that to what the funding rounds look like in the market. If people are raising capital well in excess of what you've determined you need, that's a great thing. And maybe you should try to raise more, and maybe you should try to extract a round where you give up less capital, probably the former. And if your capital need is going to be well beyond what the current raises tend to be for your type of company, then you need to reassess how your growth pattern is going to look, because either you're not going to get the capital, or you're going to give up half the company.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Ramil. I'm the founder of Najumi Technologies. We are building a SaaS-based AI platform for multilingual call analytics to gauge agent performance on calls. My question is, as an early stage startup, how to actually evaluate and know that what's the best number for you and the best and at what valuation? Because as an early stage startup, is it a good idea to have a accountant or hire an accountant at the very early stage to get the answers? Because maybe as an founder you might be too too ambitious, or you might be too not fully know the financial everything. One example of it is, I was talking to a friend of mine who had a startup. He connected with an accountant, and when we were discussing, the numbers were adding up. Like, when we were discussing formally as founders, we knew that, okay, these kind of resources, these are the projections and all, but the sheets that the accountant created, they were amazing. I mean, through that I came to know that how the valuation can also move, like many things that as a founder you have missed: the table, the chair, the carpet, and everything kind of included in that financial modeling sheet. So my question is, how much focused the investors are on those financials number, how solid they should be for an early stage startup? Because a founder would not know. I don't think it is possible to be very exact about the numbers, and you are ambitious, you think the idea might be here in 2 years and whatnot, but I was reading about valuation. Sometimes you multiply it by 8x, sometimes 14x, based on your based on the domain you are in. So is it a good idea to get to accounts, hire an accountant who manages this at an early stage, or the investors will understand and may guide you a bit over it?
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. So when we raised capital for EasyBike, I put a lot of work into creating a financial model with the tables and the chairs and the carpets and everything. And wanted to make sure that I tested our assumptions and produced something which is really robust and credible. And really was used to banking, where people go through the finances and the financial projections with a fine-tooth comb and have days of conversations about them. So I was ready for lots of really difficult questions from investors. We sent around that model to many, many potential investors. I can recall one that opened it, and nobody else ever looked at the sheet, because I think early stage venture capital, whether you're a family office or a VC firm or an angel, it's, the model is not, especially if you don't know the business, particularly credible. Or it's credible, but you want to know that they've done it so that they've figured out their own business, but you can change it, by changing things, as a couple of people have pointed out, right? A couple of percentage points and the whole business looks different. And people go with gut feel, they go with narrative, they go with team. I think the modeling exercise to a great degree is for yourself. I think you said, you're doing AI for call centers, if I understood you correctly. So, how many people are you going to need? Figuring out what their salary is going to be. Are you doing an ESOP plan? Whatever. These are the things that, more than anything else, I think you need it for yourself, not for investors. And as with regards to whether you should use an accountant, first of all, don't use a regular accountant. Accountants don't do that, but a financial analyst or a financial accountant should be able to put together a model. And you're right, it's going to look a lot better than what you put together. I still would tell you to do it yourself. You can do it with someone if you want to do it that way, to make sure that you're getting the chairs and the table and the carpet and making it look pretty. If you don't feel confident, if you feel like spending money, but don't have someone do it for you, because you're going to need to understand that as a founder. You're going to need to know what the model is. You're going to need to understand what the finances of your business are. And it'll empower you in the long term in your career to have that skill anyway. And within 3 weeks of the person developing it and you spending a bunch of money on the fees and they build the model, something's going to change in the business and you're going to need to tweak it. If you didn't do it yourself, you're not going to know how to tweak it. So if you want to spend money on a course or spend money on someone doing it with you and they train you. But don't give it to somebody else. As a founder, I think it is your responsibility to yourself to know this yourself, because you will always know more about your business than a financial accountant, and they'll know more about modeling. So maybe it's a mixture of the two, where you bring somebody in to help you do it.
So just one counter question from it. Like the example that I gave there, initially an early stage founder, you're the CFO, you're the CHRO, you're doing, things yourself. And with that mindset, when you're doing the calculations, should we do the calculation with that mindset at the early stage or not? Because when you go to an analyst he adds a CFO, he adds accounts and all those people who might for an early stage who might not be, that necessary. I mean, this is what I think, that an early stage, you are the ones leading everything. Maybe just some major areas where you hire, where you don't have expertise, but at that stage, at that early stage, in those modeling, should you count the number like a full blown out business, where when you're crunching the numbers in the sheets, or you keep yourself very realistic that, okay, I will be handling these things, this is the minimum number of people that I need, and that's it?
Yeah, certainly for us, we've always done it ourselves. Don't hire people unless you absolutely need to. So in your projections, let's say the 5-year projections, if you're going to be at a point in 5 years where you can see operationally, for example, it's going to be something there's no way you can handle on your own. At that point, add a COO, add a CFO, or whatever you need. So it's really a question of creating the projections and then understanding in terms of pure revenues and volume sold, and then understanding what the resources required are for that. And add those resources, especially the executive team, I think is what you were asking about, as you need them. Build a sales force as you need it, but don't add them up front. I absolutely agree with you. I think what you were saying was, I need to do it myself at first, and that's absolutely correct. There's another non-financial reason for that. It's not just minimizing your costs. Our experience at EasyBike has invariably been that we have to do whatever we do, we have to do it first ourselves. And once we've done it ourselves and we've understood how it works, then we can hand it over to someone. In our case, I don't just mean executive functions. I mean, like, actually fixing bikes, building software. Like, we've done it all ourselves. We run the ops ourselves. And once we understand it, we're better equipped to then hand it over to someone. So I think learning it and doing it yourself, whether it's sales, operations, finance, HR, whatever it is, learn it yourself and do it yourself first. And when it becomes a constraint on growth because you just don't have the capacity as a human being, and you're making mistakes, and you're reducing the pace, then that's a reason to grow it. That's a reason to grow the team. And if you can afford it, they'll bring someone in. So guessing that exact point when you're doing financial projections is impossible. But you just want to be somewhere in the realm of around where where that transition is going to take place. So as long as you plan out a roadmap for increasing the team, then great.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the Q&A. Hadi, you do stay with us because we'll be having hot seats later on. So now I would like to invite Mr. Murtala Zaidi to say a few words on today's topics on funding. So please, over to you. Well,
Sure, or maybe we can tell Hadi to rejoin after 30 minutes, right? So Hadi, you don't have to listen to me. You're a pro in that.
I would love to listen to you, Murtaza. It's been a while.
Okay,
anyway.
sure. Done. Thank you so much. All right, guys. First one, yeah. Numan? Okay. So who all are here? Yeah, Isha kidhar hai? It's important for Isha. Yeah. And the jewelry business as well. And oh, वो तो वहाँ पर है, right? And आपके लिए भी, you know. All right, guys. So what I'm going to try is कि हर level के हमारे पास startups होंगे, right? So I will bring it down to a level जो बिल्कुल basic से start करें. And then in the end, so since Rubana also spoke about it, Hadi spoke about financial model a lot, and we will also reflect on the financial model and how it is actually developed, right? So when he said कि normal accountant नहीं कर सकता, financial analyst कर सकता है, right? So everybody has their own version, but there are versions जिनसे आप वाकई कोई information gather करते हैं और कुछ ऐसा data extract कर लेते हैं जो आप फिर eventually अपने investors को दिखा सकते हैं, right? And he's absolutely right. Hardly anybody would get into your financial model and plug his or her own numbers and all, right? But later in the stages, I think the crux is कि आपको शुरू से ना basic सारे के सारे पता होने चाहिए, right? And then you build on that and take the journey forward. So I think since there are different startups, few are at a MVP stage, and few are already in revenue stage. Everybody has their own thing going on, right? कुछ startups ये claim भी करते हैं वो cash flow positive हैं, right? At times question ये आ जाता है कि whether do you need funding or not. So सबसे पहले तो ये कि when you look into your own self, तो सब पहली चीज ये कि is your idea big enough, right? Number one thing is there are a lot of startups who might be working at a very low scale. वो उस पर स्केल कर ही नहीं सकते, वो उसके ऊपर कुछ कर ही नहीं, वो शायद कैश फ्लो के थ्रू ही अपने आप को प्रोग्रेस करेंगे. सो सबसे पहले की क्वेश्चन अपने आप को ये पूछना है कि भाई हमारा आइडिया स्केलेबल है, हमने कितना ग्रो करना है, कितना ग्रो कर सकते हैं, किन डिफरेंट मार्केट्स के अंदर काम करेंगे नेक्स्ट 5 years. सो दिस इज योर नंबर वन की फैक्टर जब आप इन्वेस्टमेंट के बारे में सोचना भी शुरू करते हैं. Second thing is your need. Do you really need investment or you don't need investment, right? At times, क्योंकि जब आप ये पास सपोज आप एक ऐसी स्टेज के ऊपर हैं जिसमें हो सकता है कि आप उस इन्वेस्टमेंट को लेकर कुछ भी ना कर पाए, या अगर आपने वो इन्वेस्टमेंट ली हो सकता है कि आप उससे जो वैल्यू एक्सट्रैक्ट करना चाहते हैं उसके लिए आप प्रिपेयर्ड ही ना हो, एंड देन यू लूज टाइम. वो इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंक में भी पड़ी रहे, इन्वेस्टर्स भी तप रहे हो कि भाई आपने कोई चीज़ें जो है ना डिलीवर करनी थी वो डिलीवर नहीं की. सो की क्वेश्चन ये होता है कि आपने अपनी नीड भी एनालाइज करनी है, whether you are at that level, at that stage, that you can take that investment or not. So there are different thought processes कि आपने investment क्यों raise करनी है, right? देयर आर फ्यू स्टार्टअप्स आई हैव मेट जिन्होंने कहा कि हमें इन्वेस्टमेंट रेज करने की जरूरत ही नहीं हुई, हमारी ऐसी ऑर्गेनिक ग्रोथ हो रही थी, हमें पेमेंट्स आ रही थी, हम उसी को रीराउट कर रहे थे, वी वर गोइंग एट अ वेरी फास्ट पेस, वी डिडंट एक्चुअली रिक्वायर इट। और एक थॉट प्रोसेस ये भी है कि इन्वेस्टमेंट इज नॉट ऑलवेज अ वेरी गुड थिंग, राइट, क्योंकि आपके यू हैव टू डील विद अदर पीपल एंड वो फिर आपने उस एक खास किस्म की अकाउंटेबिलिटी भी आती है, और हो सकता है कि आप उतने ज़्यादा एजाइल भी ना हो जितने आप इन्वेस्टमेंट के बगैर होते हैं, राइट। सो सर्वाइवल क्या है, कैन यू रियली स्केल, कैन यू रियली स्टे इन द मार्केट, ये सारे क्वेश्चंस आपको जो है ना खुद आंसर करने पड़ते हैं कि सर्वाइवल के लिए ज़रूरी है या नहीं है, या आप बिल्कुल 3 मंथ्स के बाद जो है ना आप एक लेवल पे पहुंचेंगे, उसके बाद आपके पास कोई फंड्स नहीं होंगे, आपको अपनी शॉप को बंद करना पड़ेगा, राइट। सो अगर ऐसा सिनेरियो और आपको पता है कि स्केल है, लेकिन इस स्केल को अचीव करने के लिए मुझे मार्केट के अंदर रहना है और उस सर्वाइवल फेज के अंदर मुझे पैसे चाहिए कॉन्टिन्यूसली टू ग्रो एंड ऑल, देन डेफिनेटली यू नीड टू रेज मनी। एक 80% रूल एक और चीज भी है कि व्हेन यू प्लान, जो आप अपना बिजनेस प्लान करते हैं और आपने ना एक सर्टेन ग्रोथ करनी है, क्या वो प्लान 80% आप अचीव करते जाते हैं? अगर आपको पैसे दिए बगैर वो अचीव कर सकते हैं, तो क्या आप उस जर्नी को कंटिन्यू करेंगे या फिर भी आप रेस करेंगे, राइट। सो ऑब्वियसली एक कॉमन फैक्टर ये भी है कि बहुत सारे स्टार्टअप्स जब वो अपनी एक सर्टेन जर्नी में होते हैं और वो अपने केपीआईज को अचीव करते रहते हैं, तो वो इन्वेस्टमेंट को डिले करते हैं। वाई? उसका रीजन क्या होता है, क्योंकि अगर आपने जितना ज्यादा स्टैब्लिश हो जाएंगे और उसके बाद आप फिर इन्वेस्टमेंट रेस करेंगे, तो ऑब्वियसली यू विल गेट मच बेटर वैल्यूएशन, राइट, मच बेटर वैल्यूएशन। सो इफ यू आर सर्वाइविंग और 80% आप अपने टारगेट्स को अचीव करें, सो देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी कि शायद आप इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए जाए ना और आपको जरूरत ही ना हो अभी। ये सारी चीजें जो है ना आपको यस आंसर देती हैं आपका फाइनेंशियल मॉडल, राइट। सो वी विल टॉक अबाउट इट, आई हैव फ्यू सैंपल्स जिसको हम क्विकली रिव्यू भी करेंगे कि वो फाइनेंशियल मॉडल में होता क्या है, वो बनते क्या है, उससे हम किस तरह की इंफॉर्मेशन को एक्सट्रैक्ट करते हैं, और क्या वो जैसा आपका क्वेश्चन था, क्या उससे आप कोई वैल्यूएशन भी एक्सट्रैक्ट कर सकते हैं, राइट। सो इट्स नॉट माई नंबर और योर नंबर, इफ यू वांट टू ब्रिंग एन इन्वेस्टर इन और उसको आपने कोई वैल्यूएशन बताते हैं, तो फिर उसके पीछे कोई ना कोई बेसिस होती है, उसके पीछे मॉडल्स होते हैं, वो कैपिंग मॉडल होता है, दामोदरन मॉडल होता है, XYZ डिफरेंट जार्गन्स है, मॉडल्स के नाम है, और आपको ये पता होना चाहिए कि आप किस मॉडल की बेसिस के ऊपर वो वैल्यूएशन करा रहे हैं, कर रहे हैं, और आप उसको प्रोडक्ट कर सकते हैं नहीं कर सकते। एट द एंड ऑफ द डे ये भी होता है कि हमने कुछ और वैल्यूएशन निकाली, कोई और बात हुई, किसी ने अगर कहा यार here's 50 million rupees on the table, I want to take 25%, राइट, वैल्यूएशन आपकी बेशक जो भी कुछ कह रही हो, एंड देन उस वक्त फिर आपको अपना डिसीजन लेना पड़ता है, either to go for it or you leave it, राइट। सो ऑप्शंस क्या है? नंबर 1, पर्सनल इन्वेस्टमेंट, आप अपने पैसे डालते हैं, आप में से बहुत सारे अपने ही पैसे डाल रहे हैं, राइट। इसके कुछ फायदे हैं, कुछ नुकसान आते हैं। फायदे क्या है? आपकी जो है ना स्पीड, एजिलिटी, आप जो है ना अपने मुताबिक चीज़ें कर सकते हैं। आप आज आपको कोई और मूड हुआ, आपने कुछ और एक अपना API बिल्ड कर दिया, आपने कोई और मॉड्यूल बिल्ड कर दिया, आपने बिजनेस को वॉल्व कर दिया, ठीक है। नुकसान क्या होता है? बहुत जल्दी खत्म हो जाएंगे और फिर आप ब्रोक भी हो सकते हैं, राइट। और आप जो है, यस, आप उस वक्त लिमिटेड रिसोर्सेज का तो आप अपने आप को बहुत ज्यादा फ्रीडम होता है, लेकिन अवेंचुअली वो फ्रीडम खत्म हो जाएगी क्योंकि आपके पास पैसे नहीं बचेंगे। दूसरा होता है फ्रेंड्स, पूल्स, फ्रेंड्स एंड फैमिली, राइट। तो फ्रेंड्स एंड फैमिली से तो आप पैसे ले लेते हैं, फिर पूल्स भी आ जाते हैं, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु आर अराउंड देयर हु वुड प्रॉब्ली इन्वेस्ट, राइट। इसके फायदे क्या होते हैं कि ऑब्वियसली आपके पास एक बड़ा बकेट आ जाता है, आपको इतनी ज्यादा मेहनत नहीं करनी पड़ती टू गेट दैट मनी, राइट। नुकसान क्या है? रिलेशनशिप्स खराब हो सकते हैं, राइट। अगर इफ थिंग्स आर गोइंग साउथ, देन ऑब्वियसली यू विल बी फेसिंग योर फ्रेंड्स एंड फैमिली एंड दिल बी यार वो पैसे दिए थे क्या बना उनका, राइट, पैसे डुबो दिए। रिश्तेदारों से लेंगे वो भी एक प्रॉब्लम आएगी, दोस्तों से लेंगे वो गाली देंगे, ये सारे फैक्टर्स आ जाएंगे आपके ऊपर। तो थर्ड इज ग्रांट्स। इन माय ओपिनियन ग्रांट्स इज अ वेरी गुड वे, राइट। सो अगर आपको अपनी डोमेन्स में, खासतौर पर जैसे वुमेन फाउंडर्स हैं, आप लोग के लिए बहुत सारी ग्रांट्स आती हैं, कारणदास करता है, UN वाले करते हैं, USAID वाले करते हैं, बहुत सारा स्पेसिफिक फोकस होता है। तो अगर जब आप ग्रांट्स लेते हैं तो इट्स फ्री मनी, राइट। इसका फायदा बहुत ज्यादा है। नुकसान क्या है? टाइम कभी कभार बहुत ज़्यादा लग जाता है, तो उनका बड़ा रिग्रेस प्रोसेस होता है, आपने बहुत ज़्यादा उनके लिए प्रपोजल बनाना है, आपने फिर जो है ना प्रपोजल सबमिट करना है, वो पैसे आएंगे जो भी होगा, और ये हो सकता है कि आपका फोकस खराब हो जाए, वो आपको ना थोड़ा सा डिविएट करा दे, वो कहे नहीं 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 नहीं, हाँ ठीक है आपका वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट वो था, लेकिन हमारा थोड़ा सा क्लाइमेट का भी फोकस है, तो आप इसको क्लाइमेट भी कर दें और इसको ये भी कर दें और वो भी कर दें, राइट। तो हो सकता है कि आपने उससे डिविएट हो जाए। लेकिन हमारे मुल्क में सेहत कहानी इज अ ग्रेट एग्जाम्पल। सो सेहत कहानी बैंक ऑन अ लॉट ऑफ ग्रांट्स, आई थिंक उन्होंने जितनी ग्रांट्स रेज की किसी और ने कोई ग्रांट्स नहीं रेज की, राइट। द वुमेन फाउंडर्स दे वर एबल टू गेट मल्टीपल ग्रांट्स फ्रॉम एडीबी, फ्रॉम यूएन, फ्रॉम यूएसएड, और वो हर उन्होंने ना अपना पोर्टफोलियो उधर बिल्ड किया, एंड इवेंचुअली दे केम अप टू अ लेवल जहां पर उन्होंने बहुत बड़े राउंड्स फेस किए। एक और फायदा ग्रांट्स का ये है कि यू डोंट हैव टू गिव अवे एनी इक्विटी, राइट। सो आप जो है उसके लिए काम कर सकते हैं, लेकिन नुकसान क्या है, आप डिविएट हो सकते हैं, आप डीफोकस हो सकते हैं। सो मेक श्योर कि इफ यू गो फॉर ग्रांट्स you don't lose on that bet, right? Then obviously angels come. Angels bring a lot of passion, ठीक है। एट टाइम्स वो इंटरवीन करते हैं, एट टाइम्स बिल्कुल भी इंटरवीन नहीं करते, वो अपना भी एक नेटवर्क लेकर आ जाते हैं, राइट। नुकसान क्या है, स्मॉल मनी ऑब्वियसली, एक लिमिटेड अमाउंट ऑफ पैसे हैं वर्सेस वीसी, वीसी इज बिगर मनी, बट वीसी के अंदर ऑब्वियसली यू लूज अवे योर कंट्रोल, राइट। वो आपके बोर्ड के ऊपर भी बैठेंगे, वो आपको कंट्रोल भी करेंगे, अपनी बातें भी बनाएंगे, बहुत सारी चीजें होंगी, राइट। सो हर एक के अपने प्रोज एंड कॉन्स हैं, लेकिन pretty much these are the 5 पॉसिबल फंडिंग स्ट्रीम्स जहां से आप पैसे लेते हैं और आप उनको यूज करते हैं अपने वेंचर को आगे लेके जाने के लिए। एक्सपेक्टेशंस क्या होती हैं, व्हेन यू आर स्टैंडिंग इन फ्रंट ऑफ एन इन्वेस्टर जो आप में आपके स्टार्टअप के अंदर पैसे दे सकता है, तो वो क्या क्या चीजें आपसे एक्सपेक्ट करता है, राइट। सो नंबर वन इज ऑब्वियसली वो कहता है यार योर आइडिया शुड बी अ ग्रेट वन, इट शुड बी अ वेरी स्केलेबल वन। सो वो फोकस जो है ना वो हमेशा स्केल के ऊपर होगा, कि आप कितना बड़ा, कितने लोग, क्या 10,000 लोग, क्या 10 मिलियन लोग, क्या 100 मिलियन लोग, कितने लोग, राइट। सो आपने कितने लोगों को इम्पैक्ट करना है, कितना बड़ा स्केल हो सकता है, क्या पॉसिबिलिटी है। द बिगर द आइडिया इज, द बिगर द स्टार्टअप इज, ऑब्वियसली उस स्केल की वजह से आप ज्यादा इन्वेस्टमेंट भी रेस कर सकते हैं, आपकी वैल्यूएशन बहुत ज्यादा होगी, वर्सेस। जी, बिजनेस नीड्स टू बी स्केलेबल ना, ठीक है। मतलब आइडिया, मतलब टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, आइडिया स्केलेबल होना और बिजनेस स्केलेबल होना ज्यादा मतलब फर्क मेरे नजर में नहीं है। हो सकता है आइडिया से स्केलेबल होने से आप ये कह रहे हो कि उसकी बहुत सारी ऑफशूट्स निकल सकती हैं, सो दैट्स नॉट थिंग। फॉर एग्जाम्पल हादी जब इजी बाइक की बात करता है तो एक दिन में 6,000 बाइक्स बिकती हैं, राइट। पाकिस्तान के अंदर इस वक्त 18-19 मिलियन बाइक्स ऑन द रोड, ठीक है, हर साल जो है ना। सो इमेजिन कि 6,000 बाइक्स, जितनी देर में आपका ये सेशन होता रहे, कोई मेरे ख्याल से 800 बाइक बिक चुकी है। ऑब्वियसली द मार्केट इज वेरी बिग, बट व्हेन ही टॉक्स अबाउट बांग्लादेश, श्रीलंका, बाकी सारी मार्केट्स, तो बहुत ज्यादा स्केलेबल, बहुत बड़ा स्केल हो जाता है, राइट। सेकेंड थिंग इज मेच्योर फाउंडर्स। फाउंडर्स की मेच्योरिटी बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है, ठीक है, और वो मेच्योरिटी ना पूरे की हर तरह से आपके पर्सोना से है, आपके कैरेक्टर से है, द वे यू वॉक इन, ठीक है, आप किस तरह बात करते हैं, आपका थॉट प्रोसेस क्या है, आप लोगों से किस तरह डील करते हैं, ये सारी चीजें बड़ी मैटर करती हैं, राइट। तो ये आपकी इन्वेस्टर के साथ मीटिंग है, आप लेट पहुंचे, आपके जूते गंदे हैं, साथ में स्मेल आ रही है, डेफिनेटली यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू गेट एनी इन्वेस्ट फॉर श्योर, राइट। लेकिन इसके अलावा मेच्योरिटी, ओवरऑल थॉट प्रोसेस की मेच्योरिटी क्या है, डू यू नो व्हाट यू एक्चुअली वांट टू डू, आपके पास प्लान है, आपके अंदर कितना कॉन्फिडेंस है, ओवरऑल पर्सोना आपका बड़ा स्ट्रांग होना चाहिए, राइट। सो ऑब्वियसली इन्वेस्टर्स जो हैं वो देखते हैं, वो आपको जज करते हैं और वो ये देखते हैं कि वेदर आई कैन वर्क विद दिस गाय और गर्ल और नॉट, राइट। सो मेक श्योर कि आप अपने अंदर वो कॉन्फिडेंस लेकर आए, अपने पर्सनल उसके ऊपर आप काम करें, ताकि आपको ये एक कॉन्फिडेंस वैसे भी बिल्ड हो जाता है, और आप जब किसी से डील करते हैं तो आपकी डीलिंग में बेहतरी आती है। यार नुमान, कैन यू क्लिक नहीं, या देन थर्ड थिंग इज कि आपका कंपटीशन के ऊपर एडवांटेज क्या है, right? This can be a first mover advantage, or you can be a great tech team, or your tech is very way advanced, right? Uh, ये भी एडवांटेज हो सकता है कि सपोज हमारी सिमिलर मार्केट्स में आइडिया बहुत ज़्यादा चल चुका है और हमारी मार्केट बिल्कुल अभी वर्जिन है एंड देयर इज अ बिग अपॉर्चुनिटी इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू, राइट? सो आपके पास वो एडवांटेज क्या है, और अगर आप उस एडवांटेज को डिस्क्राइब कर देंगे रादर देन जब आप जाके कहेंगे कि देयर इज इन ड्राइव, देयर इज करीम एंड नाउ आई वांट टू कम अप विद अनदर कार पूलिंग, तो पीपल विल क्वेश्चन कि यार क्यों, ये कैसे होगा, राइट? देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम। सो जो आपके पास वो कंपेटिटिव एडवांटेज है आपने उसको बहुत अच्छी तरह डिस्क्राइब करना है और कोशिश यही करनी है। इनफैक्ट आप सारे के सारे प्रीटी मच उसी स्पेस के अंदर हैं जिधर आपको कोई ना कोई स्पेसिफिक एडवांटेज है। टीम स्ट्रक्चर्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट? क्योंकि इफ यू आर अ टेक कंपनी, यू आर एन एआई कंपनी एंड यू गो एंड यू प्रेजेंट एंड पिच एंड एंड में पूछे कि अच्छा यार वो आपके एआई इंजीनियर्स कौन है और एआई के डेवलपर्स कौन है, नहीं अभी हमने उनको हायर करना है, सो फॉर अ फैक्ट आप लोगों को कोई लिफ्ट नहीं कराएगा, राइट? सो आपका टीम स्ट्रक्चर बड़ा सिग्निफिकेंट है कि ठीक है, कुछ आपके ऐसे ट्रेड्स होते हैं जो आप हमेशा हायर कर सकते हैं, जो आप पैसे से हायर करते हैं, लेकिन कुछ की कंपोनेंट्स होंगे जो आपकी टीम के अंदर हर कोई एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा होगा कि यू हैव सॉर्टेड दैट आउट, राइट? एंड विदाउट दैट टेक्निकल डोमेन आप नहीं जा रहे फील्ड के अंदर। आई थिंक द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट वन इज ऑनेस्टी, कि जब आप इन्वेस्टर के सामने बातें कर रहे होते हैं तो कभी कभार ना पीपल कैन स्निफ बुलशिट, राइट? कि यार ये जो है ना जरा डाइसी है, ये बातें कर रहा है, इसको पता नहीं है, और यू नो मे बी ही ट्राई टू ट्रिक अस। सो द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एट्रीब्यूट इज बी ऑनेस्ट अबाउट, if you don't know anything, say I don't know but I will figure this out and I'll come back tomorrow and I will tell you, right? Don't be dishonest, don't hide things, be very transparent। कोई इशू हो बता दो क्योंकि बताया हुआ इशू आप फिक्स कर सकते हो, बाद में इश्यूज आते हैं तो फिर आपकी ना पता चलता है टर्म शीट आपको ऑफर हो गई है और वो टर्म शीट साइन नहीं हुई क्योंकि इन्वेस्टर ने कहा यार इसने तो बताया ही नहीं था मुझे, इसने XYZ अपने दोस्त को ऑफर की हुई है कि मैं 4% दूंगा जब वेंचर चलना शुरू हो जाएगा, आई वॉज नॉट अवेयर ऑफ दिस, राइट? सो इससे बेहतर है कि आप उनको बताएं, उनकी एडवाइस लें क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली दे आर ऑल्सो एक्सपीरियंस्ड एंड वो भी आपको अपनी एडवाइस देते हैं कि इसको यूं कर लो यूं कर लो, या जैसे हादी ने कहा कि फोमो वाला एलिमेंट है, तो डेफिनेटली देयर इज अ फोमो एलिमेंट। तो अगर फोमो का एलिमेंट है तो उसके अंदर वो भी अडेप्ट करेगा, वो भी ये हार्ड डील नहीं करेगा, वो कहेगा अच्छा हाँ यार ठीक है, आई थिंक दिस वर्क्स, आई एम रियली एक्साइटेड अबाउट दिस आइडिया, लेकिन तुम अपनी सिचुएशन को यूं बेहतर कर। तो इंस्टेड ऑफ बीइंग डिसऑनेस्ट जस्ट मेक श्योर कि आप जो है सारी चीजें यू पुट इट आउट ऑन द टेबल, जो कोई ट्रेड सीक्रेट्स नहीं है या कोई ऐसे एलिमेंट नहीं है जो आपने बिजनेस के भी डिस्क्लोज नहीं करना। सो व्हाई डू यू रेज इन्वेस्टमेंट, राइट? एंड व्हाट इज द बेस्ट यूज ऑफ दैट मनी? यू गेट, मतलब आपको कल $3 लाख मिल जाते हैं, आप उसको उससे क्या करते हैं? सही है। सो देयर फ्यू पीपल हु वुड से कि जी हमने मिनिमम वायबल प्रोडक्ट बनाना, इसको लॉन्च करना। देयर फ्यू पीपल हु वुड से कि हमने उसको एक्सपैंड करना है, टेक स्टैक के अंदर ये एलिमेंट्स को ऐड करना है, वी आर ऑलरेडी हियर, हम ये चीजें कर रहे हैं लेकिन इन पैसों की मदद से मैं अपने पूरे के पूरा पोर्टफोलियो चेंज कर लूंगी, और जो भी जैसे अभी मारवी यू व्हाट यू आर ट्राइंग टू डू, राइट? सो दिस इज व्हाट यू कैन डू थ्रू योर फंड रेटिंग। थर्ड है सेल्स को रियलाइज करना, कि आपने उन पैसों से अपने मार्केटिंग चैनल्स बनाए, आप अपनी टीम बनाए, यू स्टार्ट सेलिंग, यू स्टार्ट बूस्टिंग मार्केटिंग, आप अपनी जो है ना पैसे उस तरफ सेल्स की टनल की तरफ लेकर जाएं। ग्रोथ, यस, आप ओवरऑल वेंचर की ग्रोथ के ऊपर फोकस कर सकते हैं, डिफरेंट की एलिमेंट्स के ऊपर फोकस कर सकते हैं, एंड लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट टीम ऑगमेंटेशन। सो टीम एट टाइम्स यू हैव अ टीम बट लेकिन अगर आपने कोई स्पेसिफिक स्किल्स अपने क्रिएट करने हैं, देर आर मिसिंग स्किल्स इन योर टीम, आप उसके ऊपर फोकस कर सकते हैं, आप उन लोगों को लेकर आ सकते हैं, आप अपनी टीम को बिल्डअप कर सकते हैं, और ये जो है 4-5 कोर चीजें जो मेरी नजर में आप अपनी इन्वेस्टमेंट रेस करें तो इनके अंदर डालें, राइट? एंड देन ऑब्वियसली बाकी सारी चीजें आती हैं, यू नो, जिसमें आप कहें कि जी मैंने अकाउंट्स के लिए भी कोई बंदा रखना है, लीगल के लिए बंदा रखना है, लेकिन कोर फोकस आमतौर पर जब आप अपने लिए इन्वेस्टमेंट रेस करोगे वो इन्हीं चीज़ों के ऊपर, ये सेल्स के ऊपर होगा, प्रोडक्ट को और मेच्योर करने के ऊपर होगा, ग्रोथ के ऊपर होगा, या टीम के ऊपर होगा। सो बहुत सारे, मतलब यू नो आई एम श्योर के देयर आर फ्यू वेरी एडवांस फाउंडर्स। होता क्या है, राइट? सो कैप टेबल का सबको पता है, पता है आपका कैप टेबल क्या है? हाँ, नहीं नहीं, आपके स्टार्टअप का कैप क्या है अभी, क्या है कैप टेबल, हाउ डज इट लुक राइट नाउ? हाँ, नो नो, आई एम जस्ट सेइंग, आई एम आस्किंग हिम बिकॉज ही सेड कि ही नोज कैप टेबल ना। सो अच्छा ओके, किसी और को कैप टेबल का पता है? यस।
10% हमने फर्स्ट एम्प्लॉइज के लिए।
सो आपने ई सॉप्स किए में, और उसके अलावा आपने 20% अभी अभी, लेकिन वो 20% यू हैव गिवन 20% टू योर इन्वेस्टर्स?
नहीं, हमने बस अनएलोकेटेड।
अच्छा, लेकिन अभी राइट नाउ 100% आर विद फाउंडर्स।
And 0.25 to advisor.
कंपनी रजिस्टर्ड है?
Yes.
प्राइवेट लिमिटेड?
It's incorporated.
इट्स इनकॉर्पोरेटेड, ठीक है, ओके। सो देखिए, एट द एंड ऑफ द डे बिल्कुल सिंपल तरीके से, आप जब अपनी कंपनी जैसे कराएंगे, प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी, सपोज शेयर्स हैं, तो 100% शेयर जो है ना शुरू में फाउंडर्स के पास। एंड होगा ये कि आपने सपोज वैल्यूएशन की, आपने कहा जी मेरी कंपनी जो है 10 करोड़ रुपए की वैल्यू है, ठीक है, एंड समबडी इज गिविंग यू 2 करोड़ रुपए, हाउ मच आर यू गिविंग अवे? 20%, ठीक है। सो आपने अपनी वैल्यू कंपनी की हुई 10 करोड़ रुपए, 2 करोड़ रुपए के बदले आपने जो है ना 20% ऑफ योर कंपनी दी, ठीक है। इसका क्या मतलब है, अब आपके शेयर्स कितने हो गए? 80% हो गए, 20% इज विद द इन्वेस्टर। थोड़े अरसे बाद जो है ना अगेन आपने 10% डाइल्यूट किया, लेकिन उस वक्त आपकी वैल्यूएशन 50 करोड़ हो गई थी। अब आप कितने पैसे लेंगे? आपने कंपनी की वैल्यू 50 करोड़ हो गई, आपने फर्दर 10% डाइल्यूट कर, कितने हो गए? 5 करोड़ रुपए लेंगे। आपका आपका शेयर कितना हो गया? हाँ, 72% हो गया, राइट। 2% बाकी किधर से आया? इन्वेस्टर से डाइल्यूट हो गया, राइट। फिर उधर टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस होती है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स के अंदर होता है, कुछ इन्वेस्टर हो सकता है कि मैं डाइल्यूट नहीं हुआ करूंगा, तो मैं डाइल्यूट हुआ करूंगा, बहुत सारी चीजें। लेकिन ग्रोथ इसी तरह होती है, राइट। सो व्हेन यू एट द एंड ऑफ द डे यू सी के एप्पल, स्टीव जॉब्स के पास इतने परसेंट रह गए थे, या लैरी के पास ना इतने परसेंट रह गए गूगल में, राइट। सो वो होता ये है कि वो फिर डाइल्यूट होते जाते हैं, ठीक है। और सबसे पहले आप डाइल्यूट करते हैं जब आप एंजल्स के राउंड में आते हैं, राइट, एंड देन यू नो डाइल्यूट एट द वीसी राउंड। और आपकी कोशिश यही होती है कि एज अ फाउंडर आप एग्जिट तक आपके पास अच्छी परसेंटेज रहे इक्विटी, राइट, ताकि जब आपका एग्जिट हो तो यू मेक अ लॉट ऑफ मनी। एंड सो डाइल्यूशन बेसिकली ये है कि जब आपने कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट रेस करते हैं तो आप उनको कुछ ऑफर करके करते हैं, राइट, तो आप अपने शेयर्स देते हैं। तो सपोज करें कि अगर आप 100% शेयर्स हैं आपके पास कंपनी में, एंड इफ आई वॉक इन एंड से कि मुझे आप अपनी जो है ना 20% दे दें, लेकिन मैं आपको 2 करोड़ रुपए दूंगा, तो इसका मतलब है कि आप 80% पर रह गए। एंड तो आप जब कंपनी में इन्वेस्टमेंट लेते हैं तो फिर आप डाइल्यूट होते जाते हैं, राइट। हाँ, सो अच्छा, नेक्स्ट फेज में मैंने कहा कि अब आपने, आपकी कंपनी की वैल्यू बढ़ गई। देखिए होता क्या है, आपने इन्वेस्टमेंट क्यों ली थी, या सपोज अगर मेरा वेंचर है, मैं क्यों इन्वेस्टमेंट लूंगा? मैं इन्वेस्टमेंट ये सोच कर लूंगा कि भाई मैं $1 million ले रहा हूँ, उस $1 million की वजह से मैं अपनी कंपनी के लिए सेल्स, ग्लोबल फुटप्रिंट कर लूंगा, मेरे पास बड़ी जबरदस्त स्टोरी हो जाएगी, मेरे पास मेरी अजम्पशन सारी की सारी टिक मार्क हो जाएंगी। मैं अपने कस्टमर, फिर मैं जाऊंगा इन्वेस्टर के पास, मैं कहूंगा अब मुझे तुम $5 million दो, तो मैं जो है ना रेवेन्यू को इधर तक पहुंचा सकता हूँ, राइट। लेकिन पहले राउंड में मैं $10 million पे मैंने वैल्यू किया था, और $1 million पे मैंने, तो मेरे 10% चले गए थे। अब 90% इज विद अस। इन सेकेंड राउंड somebody says I will give you $5 million, but I am valuing your company at $20 million। इसका मतलब है कि 25% मैं देने को तैयार हूँ, अगर मैं तैयार देने को तैयार हूँ। सो अब 90% में से 25% डाइल्यूट हो जाएगा, तो 90 का 25% क्या होता है, राइट, राइट। सो वो मेरी डाइल्यूशन हो गई, और जो इनिशियल राउंड का इन्वेस्टर था उसकी भी डाइल्यूशन हो गई, राइट। सो होता ये कि ये प्लग इन रियलिटी, ये मैं आपको बहुत सिंपल कह रहा हूँ, इन रियलिटी जो है ना वो एक्स्ट्रा शेयर्स ऑफर होते हैं, राइट। सो वो जैसे इनिशियली कंपनी के अगर सपोज 10,000 शेयर हैं तो फिर वो 12,000 शेयर 2,000 शेयर ऊपर ऐड हो जाते हैं और उसके पूरा प्रोसेस होता है, राइट। लेकिन अगर आप इसको सिंपल मैथ में देखो तो यही डाइल्यूशन का प्रोसेस है। और मेरी ट्राई ये होगी कि हाँ, मैं स्केल अचीव करता जाऊं और मैं पैसे तब लूं कि जब मुझे पता हो कि इन पैसों की वजह से मेरी वैल्यूशन बढ़ जाएगी। सपोज करें कि मैं अपनी कंपनी को वैल्यू करता हूँ 3 करोड़ रुपए का और किसी से मैं 50 लाख रुपए लेता हूँ। और अगर मुझे ये पता हो कि अगर मैंने ये 50 लाख रुपए लेकर सही तरह यूज कर लिए तो मेरी कंपनी की वैल्यू हो जाएगी 15 करोड़ रुपए। तो जो मेरा शेयर है, अगर मैंने सपोज शुरू में 3 करोड़ रुपए करके 50% लिया तो मैंने 15% तक दे देता ऑलमोस्ट, राइट। सो उस वक्त तो मेरी कंपनी 3 करोड़ रुपए की थी, लेकिन मैंने वो बेशक 15% दिया, लेकिन मेरी कंपनी बढ़ गई 5 टाइम्स। सो जो मेरे पास 85% था, जो आप समझ लें कि 2.5 करोड़ रुपए, 2.5 करोड़ रुपए इंटू 5 टाइम्स हो गया, तो मैं तो 12.5 करोड़ रुपए का पहुंच गया उस 50 लाख रुपए की वजह से, राइट। सो आपने हमेशा, मतलब दिस इज हाउ आई सी कि व्हेन आई एम इन अ सिचुएशन, जब मैंने किसी बिजनेस के लिए इन्वेस्टमेंट लेनी होती है तो मैं ये देखता हूँ कि अच्छा यार, जो मैं अपना शेयर दे रहा हूँ उस शेयर देने की वजह से बाकी वैल्यू कितनी बढ़ जाएगी, ठीक है। अगर मुझे उसकी वैल्यू बढ़ती हुई नजर आ रही है तो मैं कहूँगा हाँ यार बिल्कुल ठीक है, दैट्स फाइन, आई एम अप फॉर इट। और एट टाइम्स यस, मैंने बड़ी मिस्टेक्स भी की हुई हैं, और जब मैं दूसरों को बताता हूँ, जैसे मैंने एक अपने टेक स्टार्टअप में, अभी हादी मेरे ऊपर हंसेगा, टेक स्टार्टअप में एक जगह मैंने $1.1 मिलियन के अगेंस्ट 33% दिया, और स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम और उसमें सब मुझे कहेंगे यार, मतलब व्हाई डिड यू डू दैट। लेकिन मुझे ये पता है कि मैंने 2 साल तक अब और कुछ नहीं करना है, और 2 साल में जो मेरे 67% रहते हैं उसकी वैल्यू शायद मैं $20 मिलियन तक पहुंचा दूं, राइट। सो विदाउट दैट मनी तो मैं वो अचीव ही नहीं कर पा रहा, अदरवाइज तो मेरी कोई वैल्यू ही नहीं थी। सो इट वॉज अ हार्ड पिल, लेकिन आई टुक दैट बिकॉज आई न्यू कि अभी पाकिस्तान में और तो कोई नहीं कहीं पर इन्वेस्ट करा। दिस इज हाउ आई कैन गो ग्लोबल एंड सेट अप माई टीम्स इन, फॉर एग्जाम्पल इन जीसीसी एंड ऑल। विदाउट दैट मनी आई कैन नॉट, सही है। सो विदाउट दैट मनी माई वेंचर इज लिटरली जीरो। सो जीरो मतलब जीरो का मैं क्या 100% रख के करूंगा। सो राइट नाउ अगर $1 मिलियन किसी ने इन्वेस्ट कर लिया है तो आई एम ग्रोइंग एट अ फास्ट पेस। मेरे दिमाग में वो प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है कि मैं ऐसे ऐसे काम करूं, मैं तो बहुत पेस के ऊपर काम कर सकता हूँ, राइट। सो एट टाइम्स आपको ये डिसीजन लेने पड़ते हैं, और मतलब एक चीज आप याद रखें, आप पाकिस्तान में, यस, यहाँ पर कैपिटल उतने आराम से मैसर नहीं है, और कैपिटल बहुत ज्यादा आपको डिपेंड भी करता है कि आप अपने किस कनेक्शन से, किस नेटवर्क से कैसे आप पैसे लेते हैं। एट द सेम टाइम कभी कभार मोमेंट्स भी बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं। व्हेन यू मीट समवन और आपने एक पिच की, इट इंस्टेंटली मेक सेंस। हो सकता है 2 करोड़ रुपए आपके लिए बहुत ज्यादा हो, किसी और के लिए बहुत कम हो। हाँ, आप कुछ, हाँ, या, हाँ, हम्म, हाँ, गुड गुड क्वेश्चन, गुड क्वेश्चन। आई थिंक देखिए, यू नीड टू लर्न दिस गेम, ठीक है, कि ये पहले तो ये याद रख लें कि दिस इज नॉट इवैल्यूएशन, दिस इज वैल्यूएशन, ठीक है। देयर इज अ डिफरेंस, इवैल्यूएशन इज अ डिफरेंट वर्ड एंड वैल्यूएशन इज अ डिफरेंट वर्ड, राइट। सो लॉट ऑफ पीपल कम इन एंड से वो इवैल्यूएशन इवैल्यूएशन, तो वो इवैल्यूएशन, यस, आपकी इवैल्यूएशन करके आपकी वैल्यूएशन निकाल सकते हैं, ठीक है। अच्छा, नाउ बहुत डिफरेंट फैक्टर्स हैं एट टाइम्स। आप बहुत टेक सेंट्रिक हैं एट टाइम्स, जैसे उसकी सीधी सीधी मिसाल है कि आज जो है ना, मार्क जुकरबर्ग आगे कहे कि मैं भी इलॉन मस्क की तरह एक टेस्ला बनाने चला हूँ, लेकिन हमने ये एडवांस टेक बना ली है, और जो है ना, वी विल बी 200 टाइम्स बेटर, फास्टर, क्विकर, सस्टेनेबल कंपेयर टू टेस्ला। और जो है ना, इस कंपनी की इनिशियल वैल्यूएशन जो है ना वो है $50 बिलियन। तो मैं इसको ओपन कर रहा हूँ और हर कोई डाले, $8-9 बिलियन डाले, हम रेस कर रहे हैं। सो ऑब्वियसली उसकी $50 बिलियन ही वैल्यूएशन होगी, राइट, बिकॉज मार्क जुकरबर्ग सेड इट, राइट, एंड पीपल वुड बी लाइक यार ये तो करना है। अब अनफॉर्चुनेटली आप तो नहीं है, सही है। सो फिर अब आप क्या करेंगे? आप नंबर एक चीज जो बड़ी अच्छी है ना, वो ये कि वी आर नेक्स्ट टू अ मार्केट विच इज गोइंग एट अ वेरी फास्ट पेस इंडिया में। और बहुत सारे लोग जो है ना, हम लोग भी बहुत सारे काम कर रहे होते हैं जो हम किसी न किसी से इंस्पायर होते हैं, हो सकता है इंडियन मार्केट में होता है, तो फिर आप अपने मी टू किस्म के प्रोडक्ट्स की वैल्यूएशन देख सकते हैं और आप उसको बेस भी बना सकते हैं कि इस कंपनी की ये वैल्यू है और इसके पास ये रीजन है, लेकिन मेरे पास ये रीजन है, आई एम बेटर देन। यार मुझे जरा रूम टेम्परेचर बुलाए थे। हाँ। सो आपने एक तो ये, लेकिन खैर ये तो एक एक जिस तरह आपने सवाल पूछा ही उस तरह का जवाब, क्योंकि हमने ऐसी वैल्यूएशन कर दी 70,000 पे। दूसरा जवाब ये है कि वी विल गो टू द फाइनेंशियल मॉडल, वी विल लुक इनटू फाइनेंशियल मॉडल, और हम फिर कहेंगे कि वैल्यूएशन कैसे होती है, और फिर हम फाइनेंशियल एनालिस्ट वगैरह को एंगेज करेंगे, और जिससे अपने फाइनेंशियल मॉडल के ऊपर काम करना है वो उसके ऊपर काम। ठीक है। सो देयर आर मल्टीपल वेज टू गो अबाउट इट, एंड देन मार्केट रेट्स, हर चीज की वैल्यू डिफरेंट है। यू नो कोई होटल है कहीं पर, आप उसको डिफरेंट तरीके से वैल्यू करेंगे, एक स्टार्टअप को आप डिफरेंट वैल्यू करेंगे, एक फ्यूचर टेक को आप डिफरेंट वैल्यू करेंगे, करंट टेक मी टू प्रोडक्ट को आप डिफरेंट वैल्यू करेंगे, हार्डवेयर को डिफरेंट वैल्यू करेंगे। राइट। सो हर एक के अपने अपने मीन्स एंड मेथड्स हैं। लेकिन एक जो जो अकाउंटिंग वर्ल्ड में, ऑब्वियसली यू पुट इन योर फाइनेंशियल मॉडल, यू पुट इन योर assumptions इन द फाइनेंशियल मॉडल, और वो फाइनेंशियल मॉडल आपको पूरी की पूरी एक पिक्चर क्रिएट कर दे सकता है कि ये आपके प्रोस्पेक्ट रेवेन्यूज हैं, ये आपकी कंपनी की वैल्यूएशन होगी नेक्स्ट 5 ईयर्स में और 10 ईयर्स में, और उसकी बेसिस के ऊपर आप उसको डिस्काउंट देकर इन्वेस्टर के पास जा सकते हैं कि भाई दिस इज हु वी आर ऑन पेपर, एंड नाउ यू टेल अस कि आप क्या समझते हैं। एंड ऑब्वियसली व्हेन यू गो टू एंजल्स, जो उस फाइनेंशियल मॉडल के अंदर नहीं जाएंगे, दे विल लुक एट यू वेरी डिफरेंटली। दे वुड नो कि दे हैव द, जिस तरह फर्स्ट मूवर एडवांटेज आपको है, तो उन इन्वेस्टर को भी हो सकता है, उसे भी ये पता है कि यू माइट नॉट सर्वाइव विदाउट माई $100,000। सो वो भी आपको, और वो ये भी सोच सकता है कि, और एट टाइम्स देयर एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स भी जो हैं वो भी, सिंस वो विजनरी होते हैं, वो भी उस जगह इन्वेस्ट कर रहे होते हैं कभी कभार, कि उन्हें पता होता है कि इसका जो नेक्स्ट राउंड है वो मैं करा सकता हूँ किसी से, या मेरे पास इसका प्रॉस्पेक्ट बायर है, या मेरे पास इसके साथ कोई प्रॉस्पेक्ट मर्जर एक्विजिशन के लिए कोई प्लेयर है, ऐसे एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स भी, राइट। सो की ये है कि आप डाइल्यूशन कितनी करते हैं। अब इस सारी चीज के पीछे बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, ना पैसे कम लेने, ना पैसे ज्यादा लेने, क्योंकि जब आप पैसे ज्यादा लेते हैं तो आप अपनी डाइल्यूशन ज्यादा कर रहे हैं, राइट। और अगर आप पैसे कम लेते हैं तो आप अपने उस नेक्स्ट माइलस्टोन तक नहीं पहुंच सकते। तो ये जो ये फाइन बैलेंस है ना, कि कितने पैसे, आपने ग्रीडी नहीं होना, आपने बड़ा रियलिस्टिक होना। यू नीड टू नो योर गेम एग्जैक्टली, कि मैं ये काम करूंगा, और ये ऑब्वियसली देयर इज ऑलवेज रूम टू इवॉल्व, चेंज करना पड़ता है, टीम प्लेयर्स चेंज करने, बीच में पता चला कोई सर्टिफिकेशन लेनी पड़ रही है, कोई सॉक 2 की टेक स्टैक के अंदर इंटीग्रेशन करनी पड़ रही है, कोई नया साइबर सिक्योरिटी का इशू आ गया है, उसको आपने चैलेंज को हल करना है, AWS के XYZ प्लेटफॉर्म पर सर्विसेज हैं वो आपने लेनी है, तो यू कैन ऑलवेज इवॉल्व। कहीं कॉस्ट कम भी होगी ना, कहीं कॉस्ट ज्यादा भी होगी, लेकिन यू नीड टू नो के, मतलब अगर मैं इसको देखता हूँ, वो ये देखता हूँ कि या तो मुझे पता हो कि मैंने ये माइलस्टोन्स हिट कर लेने, और उसके बाद जाकर मैंने इन इन्वेस्टर से बात करनी, क्योंकि इन्वेस्टर्स जो है ना, आपने उनको अपनी जर्नी का हिस्सा बनाना होता है। एक मेरा स्टार्टअप है, और जो 3-4 इन्वेस्टर्स हैं, उनको मैंने पिछले 1 साल से लगाया हुआ है कि वॉच आउट, दिस इज व्हाट आई एम डूइंग, एवरी 3-4 मंथ्स आई सेंड देम एन अपडेट कि ये मैं इधर तक पहुंच गया हूँ, 4 महीने बाद का ये प्लान है, आपसे मिलूंगा 8 महीने बाद आकर। ठीक है। सो वो आप बहुत दफा ना, आप इस तरह का रिलेशनशिप बिल्ड कर लेते हैं कि उस दिन फैसल आफ्ताब आए, तो यू स्पीक टू हिम अबाउट समथिंग, यू से कि आई एम नॉट रेडी टू कम टू यू राइट नाउ, these are my numbers, I will send you a note and I will come to you when this will happen. सो उसके भी एक आपने एक उसको पहले से प्रिपेयर करें कि यार अगर ये हो गया ना, ये तो बड़ी अच्छी बात। ठीक है। तो आप कभी कभार आप भी इन्वेस्टर्स के साथ, प्रॉस्पेक्ट इन्वेस्टर्स के साथ ना गेम कर सकते हैं, उनको उनको ना माइंड के साथ आप प्ले कर सकते हैं कि हाँ ठीक है, हम मेहनत कर रहे हैं, वी आर पुटिंग इन आवर ओन थिंग्स इनटू इट, ठीक है, एंड स्टेप बाय स्टेप वी विल रीच समवेयर। सो प्रोसेस क्या है? मतलब आज के बाद आप लोग बहुत सारी चीजें कर रहे हैं, आप अपने अभी तक जितना कुछ हो रहा है ना आप लोगों के साथ, आप लोग अपना बिजनेस प्लान बना रहे हैं बेसिकली। आपके जो कोचेज आपको बता रहे हैं, जो आप लोगों से सीख रहे हैं, पीयर से सीख रहे हैं, मेंटर से सीख रहे हैं, वो सारा ये कि एक बिजनेस प्लान की तरह फाइनलाइज हो जाए, राइट? अच्छा, एंड लर्निंग्स आपकी सारी की सारी, हमारा कस्टमर कौन होगा, हमारी मार्केट क्या होगी, हमारा प्रोडक्ट क्या होगा, हमारा प्रोडक्ट कितने का है, हम किधर बेच रहे हैं, हमारा चैनल क्या है, हम ऑनलाइन सोर्स हैं, हम एक ऐप हैं, हमारे टेक के अंदर क्या चीजें हैं, फीचर्स क्या हैं, हम किससे प्रोस्पेक्ट अलाइनमेंट कर सकते हैं, यही चीजें सीख रहे हैं आप आजकल, राइट? ये सारी की सारी चीजें जो है ना, इनका कोई ना कोई इम्पैक्ट है, या तो कोई ना कोई कॉस्ट इम्पैक्ट है, या कोई ना कोई रेवेन्यू इम्पैक्ट। ठीक है, वेरी वेरी इन अ वेरी सिंपल मैनर। अच्छा, और यही आपका ना एट द एंड ऑफ द डे बिजनेस प्लान बन जाता है कि भाई ये हम कांस्टेंट हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट है खर्चों की, ये हम इस टाइम पर इतना रेवेन्यू शुरू हो जाएगा, इतने पैसे हम वापस स्केल के अंदर डाल रहे होंगे, या इतने पैसे हम बर्न कर होंगे हर मंथ, और यहाँ तक हम जिंदा रह सकते हैं, उसके बाद शॉप बंद करनी पड़ जाए। आपने पाकिस्तान में स्टार्टअप्स की देखी ना, कि वो खबर आई फलाना स्टार्टअप बंद हो गया, उसके 500 बंदे लोग हायर कर लिए। ठीक है, वो सारा क्या होता है, वो बर्न हो गया उस टाइम पे, उन्हें पैसे नहीं मिले आगे। ठीक है, अगर मिलते तो वो बहुत बड़े हो सकते। ठीक है, लेकिन हो सकता है कि नहीं मिले, उसकी कोई रीजन हो सकती है, हो सकता है उस वक्त मार्केट में पैसे ना हो सकता है कि वो अपने केपीआईज को मीट ना करें, उनके करंट इन्वेस्टर्स ने बैकआउट कर लिया कि नहीं, सो गाइस सॉरी, वी डोंट एग्री विथ यू। फॉर एग्जांपल एयरलिफ्ट बहुत बड़ा बस्ट हो गया, राइट? सो विदाउट गोइंग इनटू डिटेल्स, ऑब्वियसली वो इतना मैसिव प्ले था कि वो पूरे मुल्क के अंदर डिलीवरियां करना चाह रहे थे, कि वो बहुत ज्यादा बर्न कर रहे थे, और उनकी स्टेबिलिटी एक सर्टेन लेवल पर आनी थी जिसका रोड मैप उन्हें पता था। ठीक है, लेकिन उस वक्त उनको इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं मिली, तो वो डाई डाउन हो गया। सो ये पता होना बड़ा जरूरी है कि आपने कब तक सरवाइव करना है अपने पास, अपने पैसों पे, इन्वेस्टर के पैसों पे, आपने क्या चीजें अचीव करनी है, और उसे कैसे लेके जानी है। और बीच में इफ यू गेट सम ग्रांट, इफ यू गेट सम फ्री मनी, इफ यू विन सम कंपटीशन, दैट्स लाइक फ्री मनी एड ऑन बोनस टू यू व्हिच यू नीड टू इंजेक्ट। ये नहीं कि नई गाड़ी खरीद ली फॉरन जाके, ठीक है, यू नीड टू इंजेक्ट इन योर ओन बिजनेस। फाइनेंशियल मॉडल के ऊपर अभी हम देखेंगे कि हम क्या, फाइनेंशियल मॉडल किस तरह का होता है, वो किस तरह का लगता है, दिखता है, कौन लोग उसको प्रॉस्पेक्ट बना सकते हैं। लेकिन प्रोसेस में ये है कि ऑब्वियसली जब आपने बिजनेस प्लान बनाया, तो आप उसी बिजनेस प्लान की जो इंफॉर्मेशन है, उसकी जो अजम्पशन है, उस प्लान में जो आपने 1 साल में करना है, 2 साल में करना है, वो अपने फाइनेंशियल मॉडल के अंदर इंजेक्ट करते हैं। उसके बाद आप इन्वेस्टर से मिलते हैं, हो सकता है कोई इन्वेस्टर आपको अच्छा लग जाए, इन्वेस्टर को आप अच्छे लग जाए, फिर आप उनके साथ बात करते हैं, जो वैल्यूएशन वगैरह निकली होती है उसकी बेसिस के ऊपर वो आपको एक टर्म शीट देता है। ठीक है, सो टर्म शीट डिफरेंट टाइप्स की होती है, आई हैव सीन वेरी डिटेल्ड वंस, वेरी यू नो बड़ी लीगल सेंट्रिक होती हैं। कभी कभार टर्म शीट्स बड़ी आसान सी हो जाती हैं, मैं आपको इतने पैसे दे रहा हूँ, इतने लूंगा, ये वो फलान धमाका, दोनों पार्टीज उसको लॉक करते हैं, एंड देन शेयर होल्डिंग एग्रीमेंट बनता है। शेयर होल्डिंग एग्रीमेंट के बाद शेयर ट्रांसफर का प्रोसेस शुरू होता है, वो पैसे देता है, शेयर ट्रांसफर करते हैं, एंड देन फिर आप अपने इन्वेस्टर को जो भी आपने डिसाइड किया होता है अपनी शेयर होल्डिंग एग्रीमेंट में, उसके मुताबिक ट्वीट करना शुरू कर देते हैं, उसको रिपोर्ट देते हैं, स्टफ लाइक दैट, राइट? लेकिन अभी आप इस प्रोसेस में पहली स्टेज पर हैं, सो हम बहुत आगे नहीं जाएंगे। आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट कि व्हाट विल हैपन एट द सेल्स, सॉरी, टर्म शीट के ऊपर, ये गलत लिख दिया मैंने, सेल्स टर्म शीट नहीं, इट्स जस्ट टर्म शीट, राइट? कि इस के ऊपर क्या होता है जब आपके पास हुआ है, तो आप यू कैन कम टू एनआईसी एंड यू कैन टेक आवर इनपुट कि ये टर्म शीट सही है, इसके अंदर क्या कर सकते हैं, क्या फैक्टर्स को और बिल्डिंग कर सकते हैं, राइट? सो लेट्स लुक इनटू सम फाइनेंशियल मॉडल्स, राइट? और कुछ फाइनेंशियल मॉडल जो है ना, ये मैं लैपटॉप करीब आ सकते हैं वैसे, या वहीं रहेगा? चलो आई विल जस्ट टॉक फ्रॉम चेंज करनी है। Yeah, so I will start from some easy ones, all right? और फिर उसको आहिस्ता आहिस्ता हम बिल्ड करेंगे ऊपर जाकर, ठीक है? ओके, आ जाओ, मैं कर लूँ तो, थैंक यू। बहुत ज्यादा टेक है यार ये। सो आप में से कितने लोगों ने हमारे डोनट्स खाए डो विद द फ्लो के? डो विद द फ्लो के डोनट्स किसने से खाए? सबने खाए? जितने लोगों ने हाथ उठाया ईशा के अलावा, उन सबको जिम ज्वाइन करने की जरूरत है, ज्यादा ना खाया करें, ठीक है, कम खाया करें। अच्छा, लेकिन सो सो इट्स अ वेरी सिंपल बिजनेस, राइट? वी सेल डोनट्स। किस तरह बेचेंगे? कियोस्क, हमारे छोटे छोटे कियोस्क होंगे, छोटी सी शॉप्स होंगी। हम ऑनलाइन बेचेंगे, कोई ऐप वगैरह से बेचेंगे, फूड पैंडा से बेचेंगे, सिंपल थिंग्स। फिर बाकी चीजें क्या हो जाएंगी? बाकी ये हो जाएंगी कि जो बेच रहे होंगे तो उसको डिलीवर करने की कॉस्ट होगी कहीं पे, फूड पैंडा का कोई कमीशन होगा, इजी पैसा का कोई कमीशन होगा, छोटी छोटी चीजें, ठीक है। और डिफरेंट टाइप के सेल्स पॉइंट होंगे। सो इस शीट के अंदर देखते हैं कि हुआ हुआ क्या है। हाँ, अभी मैं करता हूँ, वेट करें। सो देखो, ये अब ना एक मास्टर डैशबोर्ड बना हुआ है, ठीक है। और ये पुराना है, सो ये इसको हम ये ऑनलाइन तो नहीं कोई लोग अभी, तो फिर आप उनको शेयर कर दो ना ऑनलाइन में। नीचे दिस वन, या ओके, थैंक यू। सो ये जो फाइनेंशियल मॉडल है ना, ये सिर्फ और सिर्फ इन्वेस्टर के लिए नहीं कभी कभार जरूरी होता है, ये कभी कभार आपके लिए भी जरूरी होता है, क्योंकि दैट मेक्स यू रियलाइज कि आप क्या चीजें कर सकते हैं, क्या नहीं कर सकते, ठीक है। और कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन ना फिर आप खुद डालना शुरू कर देते हैं। सो एक तो एक्सेल शीट्स, हर एक को एक्सेल शीट्स नहीं आती, मुझे भी नहीं आती, लेकिन एक्सेल शीट्स के अंदर ऐसे टूल्स बन जाते हैं जो फाइनेंशियल मॉडल जिससे ड्राइव होता है, राइट। तो फॉर एग्जांपल दिस शीट सेज कि जी आपके ना डिफरेंट किस्म के कियोस्क होंगे, कियोस्क का मतलब जहां से आप सेल करेंगे, और हर मंथ ना आपके वो कियोस्क कितने कितने होंगे। हाई सेल कियोस्क 3 होंगे, आप इसको चेंज कर 5 भी कर सकते हैं, 2 भी कर सकते हैं, जो भी कर सकते हैं, राइट। सो यहाँ पर आपने ये सिंपल, यू कैन सिंपली इंसर्ट दीज नंबर्स कि भाई हमारी ग्रोथ क्या है, हम इनके ना इतने इतने बढ़ा देंगे या नहीं बढ़ाएंगे। हो सकता है आपने नहीं बढ़ाने हो, आप उस मंथ आप खर्चा नहीं कर सकते। फिर ये कि जी आपके पास डिफरेंट प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं, फूड पैंडा, जो भी पैंडा गो वगैरह, आप हर जगह उधर से डिलीवर कर रहे हैं, यस करें या नो करें। फिर आपके बॉक्स ऑफ 6 कितने का है, बॉक्स ऑफ 12 कितने का है, सिंगल डोनट कितने का है। दिस शीट इज फ्रॉम 2021, सो डोंट गो टू द कियोस्क एंड से कि वो 180 रुपीज का डोनट देते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है, ठीक है। अच्छा जी। सो दीज आर योर प्राइसिंग, और फिर आपने ये पता है कि ये प्राइसिंग आपने चेंज कब करनी है या हमेशा बढ़नी है। देखिए यहाँ पर ये प्राइसिंग चेंज हो गई, राइट। सो आपने 1 साल के बाद अपनी प्राइसिंग को चेंज कर लिया। अच्छा, फिर उसके बाद आ जाता है कि जी सेल्स कमीशन किसको कितना देंगे। ये कमीशन है कि सपोज जो आपने लड़के, जो भी सेल्स के ऊपर लड़के खड़े में, आप उनको कोई कमीशन पे करते हो, अगर करते हो तो कितनी अमाउंट के ऊपर करते हो। अदर अजम्पशंस के जी कॉस्ट क्या है एक कियोस्क को लगाने की, स्टार्टिंग सैलरी क्या होगी लड़के की, फूड कॉस्ट क्या है, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट क्या है, ईयरली अदर कॉस्ट, हेड ऑफिस का खर्चा क्या है, किचन का रेंटल क्या है, मार्केटिंग की कॉस्ट क्या है। ये आपने मंथली डाले में, हर मंथ का, और आप इसको ऑब्वियसली चेंज कर सकते हो, राइट। देन आपकी फिर सेल्स अजम्पशन कि जी हम ना किधर से कितना बेचेंगे, ये आपकी अजम्पशन है कि सपोज आप कह रहे हो कि मैं इतनी ज्वेलरी बेचूंगी, या मेरी ऐप के इतने डाउनलोड्स हो जाएंगे, मैं इतने जेमस्टोन बेचना शुरू कर देंगे, राइट, और हर जेमस्टोन के ऊपर मेरी इतनी कॉस्ट आएगी, तो ये टोटल रेवेन्यू इतना मिलेगा। हाँ, आप अपनी एजम्पशन भी कर सकते हो ना कि हाँ मैं इस वक्त इतना मार्केटिंग के ऊपर स्पेंड करी होंगी, तो मैं इस महीने में $2000 करूंगी, तो इसकी मुझे सेल इतनी आ जाएगी। और डिजायर्ड ना, डिजायर्ड, राइट। सो फोरकास्टेड एंड डिजायर्ड मतलब ये बेसिकली ये कि आप अपने बिजनेस प्लान के मुताबिक आप इसको लेकर चलते हो ना। रियलिस्टिक भी होना चाहिए। अगर आप कहीं पे कहोगे अच्छा मैं आज कर रही हूँ $10,000 की सेल, और मैं कल जो है ना $2 लाख की सेल कर दूंगी विदाउट एनी अदर इफेक्ट इन द फाइनेंशियल मॉडल, तो पीपल विल बी लाइक वेट अ सेकेंड। So obviously this should make sense for yourself and for the investor. right? Or any other person looking at it. अच्छा, this is a great tool क्योंकि आपकी टीम को भी पता होता है कि भाई अभी हमने क्या करना है, हम इस प्लान पे चल रहे थे, हमने ये चीज अचीव करनी थी, हम ये चीज अचीव नहीं कर पाए। तो इसी तरह जो हमने जैसे शुरू में देखा था, एक कियोस्क के सेल हाई सेल है, एक कियोस्क की, तो हमने डिफरेंट कियोस्क की डिफरेंट चीजें डाली हुई है कि भाई फूड पैंडा कितनी सेल होगी, काउंटर से इतनी सेल होगी। ये सारे के सारे ना, ये नंबर हमने बस पंच इन किए हुए, फूड पैंडा की कितनी सेल होगी। अब इस सारी चीजों के बाद डिलीवरी पार्टनर की क्या खर्चा है, होम पार्टनर ये होम डिलीवरी पार्टनर का क्या खर्चा है, जब ये सारी चीजें डाल देते हैं तो उसके बाद ना आपको पूरी की पूरे रिजल्ट्स खुद ही ऑटोमेटिकली एक्सेल दिखा देता है, राइट। और वो क्या दिखाएगा, वो आपको ये पिक्चर देगा जो अभी मैं आपको दिखाने लगा हूँ। आपको इन नंबर्स की बेसिस के उसके ऊपर सारी सेल्स आ जाएंगी। इन नंबर्स की बेसिस के ऊपर आपको जितनी भी कॉस्ट है जो आपकी एक्सपेंसेस हो रहे हैं, वो बेसिकली डिलीवरी के हैं, वो फूड कॉस्ट के हैं, वो रेंटल के हैं, वो सारे के सारे एक्यूमुलेट होकर आ जाएंगे। और एंड में आपको ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट ये चीजें पता चल जाएंगी, नेट प्रॉफिट पता चल जाएगा, ठीक है। सो ये तो एक बड़ा सिंपल सा किस्म का एक सिनेरियो था, सही है। एक डोनर शॉप का सिनेरियो ऑब्वियसली सिंपल ही होगा, ज्यादा इसके अंदर रॉकेट साइंस नहीं होगी। लेकिन इससे हुआ क्या, इससे होता ये कि आप इससे पूरी की पूरी आपने अगले जो 3-4 साल करना है वो आपको नजर आ जाता है, राइट। और ये आप एक पिक्चर दिखा भी सकते हो कि अब आप किसी के पास जाओ और उसे कहो कि भाई तुम्हारा जो है ना इतना नेट प्रॉफिट होगा, तुम अगर हमारे 10% पार्टनर हो तो देखो 3 साल के बाद जो है ना तुम्हारा इतना प्रॉफिट आया करेगा। सो द अदर पर्सन वुड बी, हाँ यार दिस इज एक्साइटिंग, दिस मेक सेंस। सो अगर मैंने आज डालने 20 लाख रुपए 1 करोड़ के वेंचर के अंदर, 20% में आपका मालिक बन जाता हूँ, तो मुझे 2025 2026 में इतने पैसे आना शुरू हो जाएंगे, right? So this is a good tool to actually sit on and show to your prospect investor as well. Okay? So this is the sort of financial models जो हम लोग देखेंगे। अच्छा, ये कोई बहुत रॉकेट साइंस फाइनेंशियल एनालिस्ट ने नहीं बनाया, ठीक है। और मतलब आपको थोड़ा बहुत खर्चा करना है, 50-60 थाउजेंड रुपीज में आपको बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग मिल जाएंगे, बहुत डिटेल में बना देंगे, इनफैक्ट 20,000 रुपीज में भी मिल जाएंगे। लेकिन यस, अच्छा अब we will have a session on this, ठीक है। अच्छा, then I will tell you, ये भी शेयर कर सकते हैं, वन ये शेयर कर दिस शीट, या देखिए, अब आपने जो अपनी ग्रोथ करनी है वो किसी मार्केट के ऊपर ही कर रहे थे ना। तो मैंने ये कहा, सपोज करें कि एक फिजिकल इंटरवेंशन, तो मैंने कॉस्ट डाली कि मैंने दिखाया कि जी जुलाई 2024 तक तो मैं सिर्फ इस्लामाबाद में हूँ, फिर मेरा हेड ऑफिस ऑफिस या जो भी वटेवर वो कराची में शुरू हो जाएगा, उसकी ये कॉस्ट है, तो वो उधर शुरू होगी। ऑब्वियसली आप उधर कुछ इन्वेस्ट भी कर रहे हो या फिर उधर मार्केट से कुछ एक्वायर करो, तो वो अपनी आपका जो बिजनेस प्लान है उसके मुताबिक बनेगा। तो फाइनेंशियल एनालिस्ट को आपको एक एक बात डिटेल में बतानी पड़ेगी, और फिर लेकिन बाकी इम्प्लीकेशन, टैक्सेशन की इम्प्लीकेशन, किसी और चीज की इम्प्लीकेशन, वो उसके अंदर बिल्ट हो जाएगी, राइट। और वो बड़े आराम से ऐसे मॉडल बन जाते हैं जिससे आपको जो है ना एक बड़ी पिक्चर नजर आना शुरू हो जाती है। एंड देन यू आर ऑल्सो एबल टू सी, ये देखें मेरे वेयर एम आई गोइंग रॉन्ग, ये this is not sustainable, our delivery logistics cost will go so high we won't be able to do it। या हमें एक दिन में जनाब ये तो 50,000 राइडर चाहिए होंगे, तो ये तो बाइकिया से बड़ी गेम बन जाएगी हमारी, ये तो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है, राइट। सो फाइनेंशियल मॉडल इसलिए भी जरूरी है क्योंकि वो आपको भी एक पर्सपेक्टिव देते रहते हैं, और फिर आपको ये पर्सपेक्टिव भी देते हैं कहाँ पर आपने कॉस्ट को अपना सेव करना है। एक और फाइनेंशियल मॉडल को हम क्विकली वो रिव्यू कर लेते हैं। देखिए, ये इनपुट्स हैं, ये एक छोटे से होटल की इनपुट्स हैं, ठीक है। अगेन ये जरा डिफरेंट तरीके से बना हुआ है। इसमें सबसे ऊपर अगर आप इस सेक्शन में देखें तो वो ये लिखा हुआ है कि जी पर डे रेंटल कितना होगा, नजर आ रहा है आप लोगों को कि पर डे रेंटल कितना होगा। इसके आगे ये लिखा हुआ है कि ऑक्यूपेंसी कितनी होगी किस सीजन के अंदर, गर्मियों में डिफरेंट होती है, सर्दियों में डिफरेंट होती है। पर डे अगर आप एक नाइट के लिए वहां रहते हो तो ये होटल उस चीज के ऊपर कितना कितना खर्च करेगा, टिश्यू पेपर बॉक्स रखेगा, पानी की बोतलें रखेगा, बेड शीट्स चेंज करेगा, XYZ, राइट? सो लेकिन ये काम तब होगा जब जब वो नाइट लगेगी। अगर वो नाइट नहीं लगेगी तो ये चीजें चेंज नहीं होंगी, ठीक है? सो वो उसको लिंक कर देगा। फिर Booking.com से कौन आएगा, Airbnb.com से क्या आएगा, आपने कितना कमीशन उनको देना है, आपके रेवेन्यू सोर्सेज अदर क्या है, आपका ओपेक्स, आपके खर्चे क्या क्या हो रहे हैं, बिजली का क्या एक्सपेंस होगा, क्रेडिट कार्ड की फैसिलिटेशन फी क्या होगी, ट्रैवल एजेंट्स के कोई और टैक्सेस क्या होंगे, गवर्नमेंट के टैक्सेस क्या होंगे, उसके अलावा आपने कितने लोगों को रखना है, उन लोगों की तनख्वाह क्या होगी, अगर आपकी जब सपोज सीजन हाई होता है तब फिर आपने कितने एक्स्ट्रा लोगों को रखना है। तो ये आपकी कंट्रोल शीट है जिसे आप कॉन्स्टेंटली प्ले कर सकते हो। मैं कहूँ नहीं 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 यार, दिस बिजनेस डजंट मेक सेंस, चेंज द रूम रेट्स। नो 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 नो, इट डजंट मेक सेंस, टू मच ऑक्यूपेंसी, इसको कम ऑक्यूपेंसी करते हैं, महंगा करके बेचते हैं कमरा, ठीक है? होटलिंग बिजनेस में दो तरह के मॉडल्स हैं, यू सेल अ वेरी अपस्केल रूम जिसकी ऑक्यूपेंसी कम है, या यू सेल अ नॉर्मल रूम जिसकी ऑक्यूपेंसी बहुत ज्यादा है, राइट? सो आप अपने फाइनेंशियल मॉडल से यहाँ पर बस ये वर्ड्स लिखेंगे, डिजिट्स लिखेंगे, और आपको 3 मिनट के अंदर ना उसके रिजल्ट्स मिल जाएंगे, राइट? सो वट एवर यू डू, आपको रिटर्न्स मिल जाते हैं कि ये देखें, ये है भाई सिनेरियो, ये टोटल रेवेन्यू है, ये टोटल डायरेक्ट कॉस्ट है, ये ग्रॉस मार्जिन है, ये नेट प्रोजेक्ट रिटर्न है, ये ओवरऑल वो है, और अगर आपके पास कोई इन्वेस्टर होगा तो आप इन्वेस्टर को ये वाली फिगर दिखाएंगे कि भाई आपको मैं 15% दूंगा तो फिर आपको ये रिटर्न मिलेंगे, राइट? 5 सालों के अंदर अंदर, सही है? सो अच्छा फाइनेंशियल मॉडल जो है ना वो आप लोगों के लिए बहुत ज्यादा क्रिटिकल होता है टू अंडरस्टैंड योर ओन बिजनेस। नाउ आई विल शो यू समथिंग जो हादी के बिजनेस से थोड़ा सा रिलेवेंट है। और दैट्स अ वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव सॉर्ट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल मॉडल, ठीक है? ये so there was a guy who was working with KPMG, and to build this he took 3-4 साल पुरानी बात है, आई थिंक ही चार्ज अस अराउंड 120,000 रुपीज, ठीक है? और वो उसने ना अपने स्पेयर टाइम में, यंग गाय ऑब्वियसली, वो KPMG का कोई सीनियर बॉय नहीं था, लेकिन ही वाज एबल टू गिव अस समथिंग वेरी वेरी कॉन्क्रीट। अच्छा जी, ये जो है ये बेसिकली हमने एक जमाने में कोशिश की थी कि हम इजी बाइक्स को बाइक्स बना कर देते हैं, ठीक है? अच्छा, वो एक नीचे भी खड़ी हुई है। तो ये उसके ऊपर मॉडल था कि अगर हम कितने बनाएं, क्या करें, हमारी कॉस्ट क्या होगी, ये बाद में चेंज होता रहे। हादी, डोंट बी सरप्राइज बाय द रेट्स, ये वो वाले रेट्स नहीं है, ये मैंने अपनी खुशी के लिए इसमें ज्यादा रेट्स डाले हुए। लेकिन ओवरऑल एक बड़ी डिटेल्ड किस्म की इसी तरह अजम्पशंस की वो थी कि बाइक है, बाइक की कॉस्ट क्या होगी, हमारी डायरेक्ट कॉस्ट क्या होगी, इनडायरेक्ट कॉस्ट क्या होगी, कितने हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स बनेंगे, उसकी क्या ग्रोथ होगी, हमारी फैक्ट्री की क्या खर्चे, हमारे ओवरहेड्स क्या हैं, हमारी R&D की कॉस्ट क्या है, ये सारी चीज़ें डाल के ये जो मॉडल है ये ओवरऑल हमें पूरी की पूरी पिक्चर देता था कि भाई एट द एंड ऑफ द डे उसकी वैल्यूएशन क्या बनती है। जो आप लोग बार बार क्वेश्चन कर रहे हैं ना, इसकी वैल्यूएशन जो है इस फाइनेंशियल मॉडल से निकलती है, ठीक है? और वो फाइनेंशियल मॉडल ही वैल्यूएशन का वो टैब बनाकर आपको दे देता था कि, और उसमें आपकी जी एवरेज केस वैल्यू क्या है, मैक्स केस वैल्यू क्या है, हाई केस वैल्यू क्या है, लो केस वैल्यू क्या है, और फिर आप डिफरेंट वो हैं, एक दमन मॉडल है, कैपन मॉडल है, तो आपका फाइनेंशियल एनालिसिस उस डिटेल में भी जा सकता है, राइट? लेकिन जरूरी ये नहीं है कि आपने ये सारी चीज खुद लर्न करनी है, दिस इज व्हाट यू कैन गेट डेवलप्ड, ठीक है? सो ये नहीं एक परेशान होने को, हो ये तो अब मैं एक और चीज सीखने शुरू हो जाऊं, फाइनेंशियल एनालिस्ट बन जाऊं। किसी ने फाइनेंशियल एनालिस्ट नहीं बना, मैं भी नहीं बना था, लेकिन अपने मॉडल्स को डिफेंड करना आता था कि भाई ये मॉडल है, इतने बेचेंगे, ये हमारी अजम्पशंस हैं, इस अजम्पशंस के पीछे ये रिसर्च डेटा है, इतने लोग हमें पता है कि नथिया गली में आते हैं हर साल, इतना जो है हमारे कंपेटिटर्स अभी ऑक्यूपेंसी कर रहे हैं, इतना जो है ना वहाँ पर एवरेज डेली रेट है, हम लोग ये रखेंगे तो हमें ये फायदा होगा, राइट? सो ये सारे के सारे जो मॉडल्स हैं ना, ये सारे वो प्रैक्टिकल मॉडल्स हैं जो मैं खुद यूज करता हूँ, और उससे आपको बड़ा बेनिफिट होता है, बिकॉज आई एग्जैक्टली नो कि एसेट की अगर है तो एसेट्स की वैल्यू क्या है, वेंचर है तो वेंचर की वैल्यू क्या है? जी मार्विन। कोर्स। यस। हाँ हाँ हाँ। ठीक है, देखो आपका ना किसी भी स्टेटमेंट ना, कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट या बैलेंस शीट से ना आपकी ये सारी चीजें निकल आती हैं जो आप बताते हो, ठीक है। वो तो आप किसी भी एक आम अकाउंटेंट से कहोगे ना, तो वो आपको ना आपका पूरे कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट बना देगा, 5 सालों के लिए बना देगा कि प्रॉफिट निकालना है और वो निकालना है। बात प्रॉफिट ये नहीं देखना है कि, बात ये नहीं है कि आपने क्या देखना है कि जी सिर्फ रेवेन्यू देखना है, प्रॉफिट देखना है और ये देखना है। नो, फाइनेंशियल मॉडल में एक चीज इंपॉर्टेंट है कि आप इनपुट्स करने की आपके पास सलाहियत हो, ठीक है, कि यू कैन पंच इन योर ओन डेटा, रादर देन एक अकाउंटेंट जब बनाता है ना तो वो फिक्स 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 चीजें लिखेगा और आपको बना देगा, इतने ऑर्डर आए, इतना ये हुआ, इतना वो हुआ, ठीक है। तो पहली बात तो ये कि फाइनेंशियल मॉडल में आप अपनी अजम्पशंस को टेस्ट कर सकते हैं, ठीक है। दूसरी बात ये कि ये जो चीजें आ जाती है ना, आप रेवेन्यू आता है, प्रॉफिट मार्जिन आता है, सारी चीजें आती हैं, उसकी बेसिस के ऊपर आप वैल्यूएशन एक्सट्रैक्ट कर सकते हो, ठीक है। और नॉर्मली यूजली आई थिंक हादी वुड प्रॉब्ली करेक्ट मी ऑन दिस, लेकिन 5 years इज अ गुड पीरियड टाइम, तो मैं तो हमेशा 5 years और 10 years दोनों का पर्सपेक्टिव देखता हूँ, मल्टीपल से। देखिए एक एक चीज जो है ना, इट्स ऑल्सो अबाउट हाउ यू शो अ ग्रैंड पिक्चर, ठीक है, एंड देन हाउ यू कैन एक्चुअली डिफेंड दैट ग्रैंड पिक्चर। तो वैल्यूएशन जो है ना मल्टीपल, जब आप कन्वेंशनल बिजनेस में आते हैं ना, तब आप ये बात करते हैं कि मैं एक सर्विसेज कंपनी चलाती हूँ, मेरा जो है ना इतना रेवेन्यू है साल का, मैं सपोज 5 करोड़ रुपए करती हूँ, तो मैंने कंपनी बेचनी है तो कोई मुझसे ना 15 करोड़ की खरीद ले, 3 साल का रेवेन्यू ले ले, मल्टीपल 3x कर ले रेवेन्यू का, ठीक है। बट दैट इज योर conventional business perspective. That is not your tech-centric, scalable idea perspective. ठीक है, क्योंकि आप तो जो है ना बैरियर्स तोड़ के पूरे एशिया, साउथ ईस्ट एशिया की जो है ना ज्वेलरी क्वीन बनेंगी, तो आप ये कैसे कह सकती हैं कि मैं सिर्फ मुझे मल्टीपल दे दे? मल्टीपल के ऊपर बात नहीं होगी, वैल्यूएशन के ऊपर बात होगी, उसके अंदर आपकी इनोवेशन के ऊपर बात होगी, आपकी आर&डी के ऊपर बात होगी, आपकी ये बात होगी कि भाई आपकी सोर्सिंग कैसी है, आप अपनी आर&डी क्या है, आप अपनी प्रोडक्ट मेकिंग में जाएंगे, आप कहाँ, बहुत सारी चीजें, डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स होंगे। हाँ, तो योर फाइनेंशियल मॉडल वुड आंसर दैट ना, यू वुड से आई एम नॉट आस्किंग दिस, ये कैपम मॉडल कहता है। हाँ, डिस्काउंट रेट को भी फॉलो कर सकते हैं, लेकिन देयर इज नॉट वन मॉडल, राइट। सो मेरी प्रेफरेंस तो ये है, व्हाट एवर सूट्स मी। हाँ, एज एन इन्वेस्टर, इफ आई एम इन्वेस्टिंग इन समथिंग एल्स, तो मैं कहता हूँ अच्छा यार, फाउंडर पता चल गया, प्रोडक्ट पता चल गया, मार्केट जहन में आ गई, देखिए आई एम द वेंचर्स इन विच आई हैव इन्वेस्टेड माय ओन मनी, माय पर्सपेक्टिव हैव बीन वेरी डिफरेंट। मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव ये रहा है कि अच्छा, ये एक चीज है जिस जो मैं अपनी पर्सनल एफर्ट्स लेकर बहुत आगे तक लेके जा सकता हूँ। आई एम नॉट एट दैट स्टेज कि जहां पर मैं कहूँ कि आई विल पुट इन माय मनी एंड द मनी विल प्ले, ठीक है। आई वुड से कि अच्छा यार, ये जो है ना, सपोज मैं मारवी के बिजनेस में ना, मैं 5 मेरे जेम ओनर्स फ्रेंड्स हैं जिनकी माइंस हैं, मैं इसकी सोर्सिंग कम करा दूंगा, वहां पर भी कुछ पैसे बनाऊंगा, इसको ये करूंगा, और यूं हम ना मार्केट में इसको हेल्प कर सकते हैं। कुछ जगह ये कि मैं कहूंगा मेरी साइबर विजन कंपनी है, इनका टेक स्टैक हमारा बना हुआ है, हम ये इंटीग्रेट करेंगे, हमें इस तरह फायदा हो जाएगा। तो माय पर्सपेक्टिव इज वेरी डिफरेंट, ठीक है, और मतलब वो दैट पर्सपेक्टिव इज कि अच्छा हाँ, दिस इज अ कैंडी फॉर यू इन टर्म्स ऑफ रुपी, लेकिन माय रियल वैल्यू इज समवेयर एल्स। बट फ्रॉम एन व्हेन आई एम टेकिंग मनी, तो ऑब्वियसली मुझे उसको डिफेंड करना पड़ता है, ऑब्वियसली मुझे उसको देखना पड़ता है कि हाँ, मैं किस वैल्यूएशन के ऊपर किस फर्म स्टैंड करूंगा। मेरे पास ऑप्शंस भी क्या है कि अगर सपोज इफ दिस गाय वॉक्स आउट, तो वुड आई, मैं वो 100% हो गया, मेरे पास 0% वैल्यू का, उसका कोई फायदा नहीं है, राइट। सो वो आप डिफरेंट टाइम्स पे डिफरेंट अपने कॉल ले सकते हैं। हाँ जी, पहले उन्होंने किया। अच्छा रिटर्न देता है आपका, हाँ या देखिए, दो तीन चीजें। नंबर वन, एक चीज ये कि आप ये सोच सकते हैं कि मैं इस इन्वेस्टमेंट से इस ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट पर आ जाऊंगा और फिर मैं उसके बाद ऑर्गेनिक ग्रो करूँ, ठीक है। या फिर आप ये सोच सकते हैं कि दिस इन्वेस्टमेंट विल गिव मी 1.5 years, I will increase my users by 300%. That will take my company's value to XYZ%. And over there, I will further raise around. ये दोनों बातें जो है ना, ये आपके बिजनेस मॉडल के ऊपर बेस करती है, राइट। इसका ये आंसर नहीं है कि मैं 5 साल की मैंने प्रोजेक्शंस की तो 5 साल के खर्चे हैं, तो ये थोड़ी है कि 5 साल के खर्चे इन्वेस्टर दे देगा। इन्वेस्टर थोड़ी देने आ रहा 5 साल के खर्चे, ठीक है। इन्वेस्टर आपको लेकिन आपको कितने अरसे तक जरूरत है और आप उससे क्या लेवल अचीव करोगे। कि देखिए, बहुत दफा जैसे आपको टेबल में बताना पड़ता है कि देखिए जी, मैं इधर से पहुंचूंगा इधर, और उस वक्त मैं अपनी कॉस्ट में पूरी कर रहा हूँ, मैं ब्रेक इवन कर रहा हूँ और मैं इस वक्त प्रॉफिट बना रहा हूँ। तो उस वक्त तो मुझे एक राउंड रेस करने की जरूरत ही नहीं होगी। या फिर आप इन्वेस्टर को बताते हैं कि भाई, इधर से लेकर मैं इधर पहुंचूंगा, इधर मैं राउंड रेस करूंगा, ठीक है। और वो राउंड जो है ना मुझे इधर लेके जाएगा, तो इन्वेस्टर को पता है कि मेरा इधर रिस्क है, ठीक है। लेकिन एट द सेम टाइम आप ग्लोबल वेव है ना, आप एआई के अंदर हैं या बाकी चीजों के अंदर हैं, आप बता सकते हैं भाई ये एक ग्रोथ पैटर्न, एक ट्रेजेक्टरी दूसरे उसके चल रहा है, ठीक है। और इन्वेस्टर्स को पता है ये बात, ठीक है। और आपके लिए जरूरी है, अगर आप इस कैटेगरी में है, कि आप उन इन्वेस्टर से इन्वेस्टमेंट लें जिनकी इस तरह का नेटवर्क है जो आपको दूसरी जगह लेके जा सकती
Good. So we have hot seat pages now. So I think we should go for, and then you can take it offline. जो भी questions हैं, you can ask
है। एक
later.
ये सब पूछ लेंगे
Last questions के बाद, ठीक है ना? Sorry.
नहीं, खुद डायरेक्टली नहीं था ये हाँ। या सो सो मेरी जो कंपनी थी उसका नाम एनर्जी था, ठीक है। हमने इजी बाइक के लिए थोड़ा सा काम किया था। तो आपकी बात बिल्कुल ठीक है कि, और उस वक्त बड़ा मसला था, और वो वेंचर बंद भी डिफरेंट रीजंस की वजह से हुआ। और एक रीजन ये था कि उस वक्त डॉलर जो है ना ऊपर जाने लग गया था तो आई थिंक हम 120 से 130 रुपए पर थे, और एकदम से जंप मार के बहुत ऊपर थे। तो हमारे प्रोडक्ट की प्राइसिंग भी बहुत चेंज हो गई थी, कुछ और भी इश्यूज थे। सो ऑब्वियसली इस जिस पिछले 4 सालों में पाकिस्तान में जो हुआ वो अनप्रेसिडेंट, ठीक है। इतना ज्यादा कभी भी रुपया गिरा नहीं, स्टील प्राइसेस इतनी ऊपर गई नहीं, डॉलर कभी इतना ऊपर गया नहीं इन जो पिछले 4 सालों में होगा, राइट। सो वो तो एक ऐसे मार्केट डायनामिक्स है जिसको आप कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते। हार्डवेयर प्रोडक्ट्स को हाउएवर मेरा ये ख्याल है कि हार्डवेयर प्रोडक्ट को की वैल्यूएशन करना ज्यादा आसान है, ठीक है, कंपेयर टू योर अदर वेंचर्स। व्हाई? क्योंकि सपोज अगर आपने एक प्रोडक्ट बनाना है और आप उसके लिए सोर्सिंग कर रहे हैं, या आपने उसको ऑब्वियसली ज्यादा प्रोड्यूस करना है, सोर्सिंग कर रहे हैं, तो आप बड़ा आसान है, आप कह सकते हैं यार हाँ 100,000 पार्ट्स के जो है ना मुझे ऑर्डर देना होगा, तो उसकी क्या प्राइसिंग है, तो डॉलर में तो वो प्राइस प्रेटी मच उतनी ही रहेगी ना, सही है। अगर आप खुद मैन्युफैक्चर करें उसमें भी आपको पता चल जाता है, आप इंजेक्शन मोल्डिंग करें, आपको पता है कि आप जाकर रेट ले लें, हाँ यार इसकी मुझे जब 1 लाख चाहिए होंगे पार्ट्स तो कितने के होंगे, अभी 500 पार्ट्स के ऊपर तो बहुत महंगा पड़ रहा है तो हार्डवेयर प्रोडक्ट तो इजी भी है, क्योंकि हार्डवेयर प्रोडक्ट जो है वो लिमिटेड स्केल गेम है, ठीक है. Hardware product is not मतलब until unless you build something like an iPhone and Samsung और ये वो जो हमारे startups इधर जो प्रोड्यूस करेंगे ऑब्वियसली वो एक लिमिटेड प्ले के अंदर है. उस लिमिटेड प्ले की बहुत इजी है वैल्यूएशन compared to someone who is in a AI centric XYZ utility जो है ना हर क्रोम के ऊपर वो हो जाएगी और उससे आपको इम्पैक्ट करना शुरू करेगी. मिलियंस ऑफ थाउजेंड उनके यूजर्स होंगे. हाँ. या प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कोर्स कोर्स शेयर्स कैसे दोगे. एओपी में तो शेयर्स ही नहीं होते ना. ठीक है. तो वो तो एसोसिएशन ऑफ पीपल है राइट. तो वो आप शेयर्स ही नहीं. तो शेयर्स के लिए ऑब्वियसली आपको प्राइवेट लिमिटेड एंड इट्स इजियर ऑब्वियसली ग्रोथ के लिए तो आपको चाहिए चाहिए. सही है. थैंक यू.
And thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. So let's do some hot seats because we were supposed to do it in start, but we had to change the pattern now. So all right, Marvi, please come in. So you haven't done hot seat before, I believe, yeah? So nobody's prepared. Nobody's prepared. Hot seat is supposed to be like this. Nobody's told कि आपने hot seat करना है. So what will happen is you will have. So all right. So sorry. Hot seat is 60 seconds. So 60-second pitch. All right. So it's for the mentors. So I think Romana is back with us. And Hadi, so let me explain the hot seat. So we'll have, the founder will be have 60 seconds to pitch. And after that, you're supposed to give them scoring based on their pitching. So the score is 1, 2, 4, and 5. There are no threes involved. So it's either good or it's not good. So 5 is you're ready to invest in the startup. So then you can give 5. 4 is good, but there's areas of improvement. 2 is an average, and there are a lot of areas to consider. And 1 means you didn't get anything. So it's really bad. So that's how the scoring takes place. So the first startup is Geology Vibes. So whenever I say start, that's when you start. And then they will, after the pitch, so they will give you scores, the mentors, and then they can give you the feedback on it. All right.
Gemstones are becoming everyone's soulmate, and I say that because the industry currently stands at $32.38 billion. Pakistan, unfortunately, has only 8 million sliver of that entire big slice of pie. One of the major reasons being insecure payment gateway seller credibility, and that's exactly where Geology Vibes come in. We're bridging a gap between Eastern market and the Western market. We've built a platform which is a multi-vendor marketplace. We ran a pilot project for 3 months. And it helped us generate in just 3 months $8,000, which was very promising to see a future in the similar industry. And what I'm foreseeing right now is that even if we tap into just 10% of Pakistan's market, we can come really close to $1 million of our revenue. We're also not just focusing on selling the products, but also providing educational contents so that whenever buyers purchase from the platform, they can understand how to distinguish between real versus fake. And there's also going to be a element of augmented reality. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start first with how much are we getting on the So, Adi, you could give your score from based on what I mentioned. So it's either 1, 2, 4, or 5.
मुझे आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही.
Acha, okay, so I want to know how much how much score you're giving on the pitch. And so it's either 1, 2, 4, or 5.
4.
Can I ask a very quick question? And I'm I'm so sorry. I was hoping before you give the score, if I may,
Yeah.
I dropped out, unfortunately, because I'm on the way, as you know,
Oh.
driving to an airport. If
All right.
possible, if it's possible to give her one more chance for the 60-second pitch. I'm so sorry.
All right. Yeah, sure, sure. All right. So let's give her one more chance.
Thank you. To be fair, thank you
All right.
so
Okay.
much.
Okay. Let's give her one more.
How about I just answer a few of your questions? Do you think that would serve? Okay.
I wouldn't want to score you with your questions. That's the problem. I'd rather score you on the pitch, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. I'm fine with going again. Okay. I say gemstones are becoming everyone's soulmate because of the fact that the industry currently stands at $32.38 billion. And Pakistan, unfortunately, has a very sliver of that slice, which is $8 million currently. And one of the biggest reason is that insecure payment gateway. When you're purchasing online, you're not really sure if the gem is real or not, if the seller is credible or not. And that's exactly where Geology Vibes come in. I've built up a platform which is bridging the gap between East and the West. I myself come with 8 years of supply chain experience in companies like Nestle and Coca-Cola, and my on-ground operations team is in the gemstone business themselves generationally. And the platform is giving, we ran a pilot project for 3 months, and it gave us $8,000 of a revenue. The platform is not only selling, but it's also providing educational content to the sellers so that they can distinguish between real versus fake, and augmented reality so that you can envision the stone in your physical space. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So, Romana, how much are you giving Marvi's? How much score?
I will give a 4.
4. All right. Thank you very much for the scores, and over to you guys for any feedback on her pitch. We can start with you. Oops.
Go ahead, Romana.
Yeah. Hadi,
Thanks,
any
Mohammed.
feedback for you? And yeah, Romana, you
Sorry,
please go ahead.
I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah, please,
So
please.
I know it's really hard when you have a 60-second pitch, but that doesn't mean that and I'm terrible at it, so I'm not, and I'm working on it. It's a forever work in progress, but you don't always have to speak so fast. Take it slowly, focus on the key points that you want to get across. For me, I think that you could have also been a little bit clearer on what the opportunity is in terms of the product. So what is it that you're selling, and how are you commercializing it? It wasn't clear to me. I think that it could do with a little bit more clarity. I would also perhaps focus a little bit more on any kind of very quick top line numbers on market and revenue. I know difficult when it's really early, but anything that you've been able to get any further, again, feedback on why you think this is such a key opportunity. So again, slower. It was really hard to catch everything. And for distracted investors, which is possible, as I said to you before, in the kinds of times you might meet them, like myself right now, it wasn't very easy for me to catch. I gave you a 4 because you presented very nicely. Otherwise, and obviously you have a strong background and a clear idea of what you want to do.
All right. All right. Thank you. So over to you, Hadi, for any feedback.
Yeah, I agree completely with Romana. I think that's excellent feedback. I also felt that it was too fast. The second time was a little slower, but the first time I really struggled to understand what you were saying. So definitely slow it down. Don't feel the pressure when you're in front of investors to try to get through it really fast. Oftentimes we do that. And don't be too considerate for their time. So if you take 65 seconds, it's okay. The main thing is to explain to them what it is that you do. And just to add to what Romana said, I think the biggest challenge in that is that when we're in the middle of a business and we're in the trenches fighting it day in and day out, it's oftentimes we get so deep into the details that it's difficult to describe, the woods rather than the trees, if you go with that analogy. So being able to provide a perspective and a lens when you're describing it, where somebody who's never heard about it before would pick up on the main points and get a taste for it where they want to learn more is really what you're trying to achieve, and that's a tough skill to develop. I also, went with a 4 because I think you brought passion and you looked like you really believe in what you do, and you talked about a team that seems to have expertise. But I also, after the end of that pitch, don't exactly understand what the marketplace does, how it onboards vendors, for example, or onboards customers, what market opportunity there is where you would be able to actually build a business there, what the cost of doing so would be, and what the likelihood of doing so would be, what amount of this gemstone market exists in Pakistan. 32 billion globally is a large number, but I have no idea where the opportunity lies for you, what the growth trajectory is of the market, what the competitive landscape is, and what you think you can do, how much money you want to raise, and where is that going to take you in terms of a revenue run rate. $8,000 in 3 months sounds interesting, but without knowing the market, I don't know if that's 3 transactions or 300, and I don't know how big a piece of the pie that is. So I know it's very challenging to get across in 60 seconds. And hopefully when you're actually in a real life situation, you'll have more than 60 seconds realistically. It's not often that we actually find ourselves in an elevator. It's usually in a conference or somewhere else. But you do have a limited amount of time to get across the key points. And I would just try to hit as many of those as you can, where someone from the outside can walk away and say, I think I understand what that person is doing. Even if they're not investing tomorrow, at least they're curious.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good job. All right. So next startup is Influencer. Please come on the stage.
Hello everyone, my name is Rashid Ali. I'm the founder and CEO of Influencer. I am a 2x founder with 6 years of experience and startups. We have built Pakistan's first influencer marketplace. We connect brands with influencers for their influencer marketing campaigns. We have onboarded 600 plus influencers. We have generated 5.5 million in revenue and PKR, and we are very expert in creating viral promotional campaigns on social media. Our top most viral video got 4.4 million views, and our top 14 videos have generated 10 million views. That is 1 crore. If you want to make your business viral through influencer marketing on social media, you are in the right company. Do contact us here. Thank you so much.
Romana, I'll let you go first.
All right. Yeah, Romana, over to you first for in terms of scores, please.
I like this. I think you pitched it clearly. I would have liked a little more on the potential and how you do the influencer marketing, i.e. the model, and only because I know this business very well. I have personally been looking at a couple of them in the Middle East and also out of India to invest in. So I would have liked, but then I'm a little bit exceptional, a little bit more information on how you're doing it. So how are the influencers onboarded? What is the mechanism? What is the revenue model? What's the percentage? When you say 5 billion PKR, is that gross revenue? Or is that your net revenue that you're making? And then what are the margins on this? So because of that, I would give you a 4, but otherwise very nicely presented, very good business model, clear traction.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, Hadi, over to you. Scores followed by the feedback.
I'll also go with a 4. And I thought it was well described. You certainly know your business, and the traction that you led with was very compelling, because you hear the numbers and you think, well, these guys are doing something and they're succeeding at it. So I want to know what this is and whether I can be a part of it. I think that I would agree that as I was hearing the numbers, I was trying to wrap my head around it, and I know less about the space, but at the start of it, to hear the number 600 influencers, my immediate reaction would be, a lot of those may be micro influencers, so 600 doesn't sound like a very big number, but then 5.5 billion sounds like you're making a lot of money. So I was trying to tie those numbers together. And then you pointed out some of your successes with the 4 million views or whatever it was. Sounds very, very impressive. So I thought it came across really well. I would like to learn more about not just what Romana mentioned about how you do it. I'd also like to understand what the opportunity set is. You finished with a line about if you want to make your business successful, you should partner with us. I think that's your pitch for corporates that you're trying to onboard. So I wouldn't use that. For an investor, I would simply replace that with a vision of what you think you can get to and what you need in order to achieve that. So you could say, we believe that the market size is X, and right now we have a Y percentage share. We believe with this amount of capital, we can grow our net revenues to whatever number it is within this space of time. And we'd love you to be a part of that. That would, to me, kind of, cap the whole thing off where I understood who you are.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, boss. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. All right. So the next startup is Yodo.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Umair. Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Umair and I am the co-founder of Yodo. At Yodo, we are developing an app-based scooter rental solution to transform the short-distance intra-city commute. We aim to penetrate the market through specific segments starting from universities, and then we plan to expand to gated communities, corporate hubs, etc. So basically, the problem we are solving is simple, that current transportation solutions are inconvenient, inflexible, and do not cater to certain customer segments. Right now, we are operating at LUMS University, and we expand to target 8 universities in the next 1 year, for which we are looking for an investment of 50 million rupees. Thank you.
Thank you. So it was 42 seconds. You could have utilized some more seconds because you have 60 seconds, under your disposal. But anyways, good job. So over to you, Romana. If you could start with with the scores and the feedback, and then over to Hadi.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to hand this to Hadi because it cut me off throughout. I don't want to disrupt you by asking him to keep repeating, but unfortunately, it cut off the majority of the pitch.
Okay. All right. Okay. So,
do it again. Oh.
We can do it again. All right. So if you're ready, then
don't want to interrupt your timing. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, it's all right. So we can do it again.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Umair and I am the co-founder of Yodo. At Yodo, we are developing an app-based scooter rental mobility solution to transform the short-distance intra-city commute. We aim to penetrate the market through specific segments starting from universities and then expanding to gated communities, corporate hubs, etc. I believe this is the right time because we have seen similar startups going to billion-dollar valuation in the West, as well as going to million. Even in the India, we have seen some multi-million-dollar startups developed in this industry. And in previous years, we have seen some significant advancement in the EV industry in Pakistan as well. So I believe this is the right opportunity to enter this market. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
I would go with the 2.
All right, 2. Yeah, Hadi, over to you. Your score, and then if there's any feedback for the founder as well, that will be appreciated. Or your question even.
I'm also going to have to go with a 2, and
okay.
I actually think that the first one was better than the second. I had the advantage of hearing it twice. And the other advantage I have here is that I know this space very, very well. My company pioneered this in Pakistan, so I understand exactly what the model is and what the dynamics of the market are. So I don't know if that is helpful or less helpful, because you want to be pitching to people who don't know it at all. So a couple of comments would be, it was too fast. Again, I think don't worry about the time limit. Slow down your pace of speaking so the person can understand you. and take the time to explain what the exact model is. If I didn't know the space, really all I heard was scooter-based mobility, segments, students. I didn't exactly know what you're doing. Is it an app? Is it rental? Is it a subscription model? How are you sourcing, etc.? So I think, don't feel the pressure of the time. I know it's a very limited amount of time, but try to explain in the time that you do have enough that the person walks away knowing what you do. Even though I know the space, it wasn't exactly clear to me what it is that you do. The other thing specific to this particular type of business is that you mentioned you spent a lot of the time talking about the international track record. And how other companies around the world are doing a lot in this space, and that's why you think it'll work in Pakistan. Well, the reality is most of the companies doing it around the world have failed. Whether you look at the West, there's been a really disastrous outcome for almost every investor that's invested in micromobility. And that is specifically because the operations tend to be too expensive. So almost all the companies have gone out of business or have dropped down in terms of valuations massively. So for example, one of the leading companies is Bird, which was valued around $3 billion. Around COVID, it's now valued at about $26 million. And that's not just one, the same has happened in India and elsewhere. But that doesn't mean that your business stinks. I mean, you can still build a business in this, and I know that for a fact in the context of Pakistan, but explaining what it is that you can do and why you think that you have a viable business model despite what happens in what has happened globally would be the better approach to take. So I wouldn't use the global experience as a really strong, compelling argument for why people should invest in this business. I would talk about what you think you can do. Specifically, talk a little bit about the unit economics and how you can make profit, because that would be the concern of any investor who knows the space at all. And secondly, talk about the size of the market, how much revenue you think you're going to make. I think you said, I don't remember actually, because I think you changed what the number you said in the first pitch in terms of what your revenue could get to. But again, I need a roadmap for knowing what size fleet you're deploying. Have you got a pipeline? Do you have a model that has been tested that you know you can make money in, and how much money do you need? I hope that helps.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, over to you, Romana, for any feedback on the pitch.
Yeah, very similar feedback. Look, I also know the sector very well. I've invested in the sector specifically for mobility vehicles, also in the EV space, in the Middle East region. So I do like this sector a lot, but honestly, I did not understand the business at all. I did not understand what the proposition is. So speed, pace, clarity, product, all the things that really Mohammed Hadi has said. Again, can be a great sector. There's a lot of opportunity and new and innovative technologies. The one I'm looking at looks at courier vehicles, so EV vehicles that are for courier companies, with battery swap stations for the bikes, which mean that the Careem or Uber drivers or Amazon drivers can swap their batteries out and therefore operate at 24-hour kind of high productivity. The same for courier cars. So again, I know there's an opportunity in the space despite many failures, but it really depends on what the proposition is, which did not come across to me at all clearly. Again, not to say that it isn't a great idea, and happy to, separately at any time review the business model, but the 60-second pitch was not great from my perspective.
All right. All right, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And I think that brings to the end of this session. I would like to thank once again all the mentors who came in, all the speakers. Thank you very much, Romana. Thank you very much, Hadi, taking the time out and engaging with our startups. And hopefully when you guys are here in Pakistan, we would like to host you at NIC Islamabad. So thank you very much for your time. And, our very own Murtaza, I would like to thank you as well. Thank you very much for coming in, and to all the startups for coming in for this session. And then we will take it offline on some of the points that I have to discuss with you on FI assignments. So thank you very much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Romana and Hadi, I will bring your goodies to Dubai the next time I come to Dubai, all right?
Look forward to it.
Thanks, Murtaza. We'll see you soon in Pakistan. We'll be filming soon, so I'm sure I'll see a lot more of you.
Oh, wonderful. Looking forward to see you, Romana. Thank you, Hadi. Thank you, Mana.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you again to the startups. Well done. You guys were great and keep going.
Good. Very good. अच्छा यार before you guys go अच्छा कुछ बातें आपसे डिस्कस करनी है and then you can take it from there ठीक है